Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku Tenya Iida's perspective. If you guys enjoy this movie, comment down below and let me know. Before I start, please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. So let's start the video. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. 𝗔𝗫𝗁, a classy lady who happens to have 4 arms, a gentleman with a handsome coat of fur, a squishy boy with skin like gelatin. Individuals like these fine people used to belong to the minority. Thus began the 𝗳𝗏𝗃 company's ad for hero gear. Striding down the street past the 3 individuals so named was the company CEO, long, lean and bird-like. But the appearance of the extraordinary continued to accelerate, bringing us into their era. While mass production and consumer culture has been expanding ever since the Industrial Revolution, this phenomenon suddenly pumped the brakes. By the time everyone realized, it was too late. Those with newer types of bodies spent their days just trying to find products to fit their daily needs. He threw his hands up in the air, his arms crossed over his head, and cried out. Many found themselves struggling in this new era for that reason alone. We've made a point of never forgetting that history. While creating products to suit each and every valued customer, we offer customized designs, guaranteed on your doorstep in 3 days or less. It's the technology and the proprietary system behind this personal touch that have made us #1 in the industry. And now the world of heroes too can expect big things from 𝗳𝗏𝗃. Thus ended the commercial, aired on all major channels, coming soon to a store near you. Quirks, sometimes known as meta abilities, entered the world many years ago. After the chaos brought about by the advent of the extraordinary, people wanted peace. They started planning ways to coexist with metas. But among metas themselves, there was a pervasive desire: liberation over suppression. Wielding one's abilities freely seemed like it should be a basic human right. Chikara Yatsubashi, the man who unified the liberationists to form the Meta Liberation Army. He called himself 𝗧𝗪, the one who would destroy the status quo. While the government trudged ahead with legislation, Yatsubashi opposed the powers that be and vied for supremacy, prompting a struggle that ended several years later with his defeat. Yatsubashi's army dissolved, and many of his followers were caught. While in prison, the man himself did some writing before taking his own life. Unbeknownst even to Yatsubashi, he had a child out in the world. Koku Hanabata, the leader of the Hearts and Mind Party, placed his thumb to his forehead with his forefinger stuck in the air on the entrance of the CEO of 𝗳𝗏𝗃, the ancestral child of the great Yatsubashi. It was a private board meeting of the head officers of the Meta Liberation Army's secret headquarters. His fellow chiefs of staff, Getten, Skeptic, and Curious, were gathered about the table as well and gave the same salute as their chief joined them. "Any progress?" he asked Trumpet. "We found someone with a potential connection to the League. If we're gonna make contact, it needs to be sooner rather than later. Move on that." "Right. They are enemies to the Liberation Army. And if the state is struggling to handle them, then it's up to us. I swear on 𝗧𝗪's good name we will end the League of Villains." On that note, asked Curious, "What's all this about you expanding into the hero industry?" 𝗧𝗪 took his seat at the head of the table. Staff entered with the full-service dinner, wine and cup service provided for the excellent work of the chief, and they all ate as they spoke. "Right. If it's a track record you're worried about, we have it. The country is full of those who lie in wait, hoping for liberation. The products I'm leaking into the black market are constantly monitored. If things are looking risky, I make them self-destruct, leaving no trace. All the while we're gathering a ton of valuable battle data. A businessman to the end. All to further the liberation agenda." Said Skeptic. "Your guest has arrived," he said, checking a cell phone monitor. "So soon?" asked 𝗧𝗪, taking another bite. "You told us to move on that immediately. And your word is as good as 𝗧𝗪's. They're saying he's not in a talkative mood. The search for his client list apparently turned up nothing. He claims he destroyed any such lists. What a scrupulous fellow." The door had opened, and 2 guards in suits appeared, escorting a man in a white suit, much ruffled, a long pink scarf hanging off his shoulders, heavily disheveled hair and broken, crooked glasses. Blood, dried, trickled from his forehead and lips. The guards walked him to a chair by the table and shoved him down. His hands were tied behind his back. "He helps the League of Villains recruit and provides them with support items. Yes, there's no doubt that 𝗔𝗫𝗁 the broker has plenty of info on the League." 𝗔𝗫𝗁 spoke at last, giving a small chuckle. "𝗣𝗲𝗿𝗺, never thought anyone trace it back to me. It would have to be someone with plenty of time on their hands. And look what we have here. If it ain't President Forehead of 𝗳𝗏𝗃 himself. I gotta say I resent all this. I've been making bank off this stuff since I got started. But now it's looking like your big legit company is entering my racket." 𝗧𝗪 had stood and approached him. 𝐻I's smile had not dropped the entire time. He raised a finger. "Name your price." 𝗔𝗫𝗁 leaned his head back and banged it against the chair. "Business dealings are something you do face to face. And I only make deals with people I respect. not guys who decide to kick the crap out of me first. Sure, I might know about the league, might not, Either way, you ain't getting a thing out of me. 'Cause what kind of merchant sells out his customers? Thanks, but come again when you got the guts to do this right. He looked up and met 𝗵𝗃 eyes with a wide smile, missing a tooth. The 2 black spots on the CEO's forehead had expanded in size and a dead look had come into his eyes. His smile looked much less agreeable now. You and I are going to be spending plenty of time together, it seems. 𝗃 let's take a look at our current living situation. Some people hate chocolate. Others love cockroaches. The point is, there are all types of people in this world, with all kinds of views. We'd found a remote house, a 3-story mansion in the middle of the woods just ripe for a robbery. Turned out the place wasn't deserted as we'd hoped, but occupied by a bunch of CRC members holding a secret meeting. Hard to tell their expressions beneath those skull face half masks and cloaks. But safe bet they'd made us. How did you all get in here? Wait, that's the League of Villains. Yeah, these charmers happen to be members of the Creature Rejection clan. Basically, they're modern-day fossils. As you might have guessed from the name, they love committing hate crimes against people with heteromorphic quirks. A real bunch of scum, if I do say so myself. For starters, I'm not so fond of the word heteromorph. Sure, everyone tosses it around casually, but it's nicer to avoid it when you're being polite. Guess it's better then. They have a lizard with them. How disgusting. I felt my eyes narrow. Meanwhile, Mr. 𝗵𝗃 had taken to rifling through the drawers. We seek things of value. Are any of these worth anything? We're running low on funding, you see, and yes, I know, common burglary is hardly in vogue. I don't relish it either. The CRC raised up their candelabras and pitchforks. Get out of here, you sins against nature. Their leader had run straight at 𝗧𝗪𝗧, giving him ample time to reach out his hand and seize his face, beginning the activation of his decay quirk. Morons ran right at Tenya and got his hand on their faces to decay them to nothing with a touch. What did they expect? We'll leave when we're done. If you don't want us overstaying our welcome, don't mess with us. We all moved. Twice decapitated one. Toga cut them up, 𝗵𝗃 turned them to pieces, and my sword was more than sufficient for the job. My name's Spinner. I'm a member of the League, and today's just another day in my life of crime. There's not much money in religion nowadays, said Twice as he searched. In this economy, said 𝗵𝗃, taking a stroll along the balcony. Everyone is just scraping by. Cried Toga, looking at her needle. It broke, and my prosthetic is in dire need of repair as well, added 𝗵𝗃. I shall have to request a new one from 𝗔𝗁. And where are we getting the cash for that? I demanded. No one had an answer. We had no choice but to head back to our current hideout after a while. No sense in waiting around at that awful place. Still, it was at least a little nicer than our current hideout, a tiny shack in the middle of a desert mountain pile under construction. How long are we gonna keep living like this? I demanded. Until we finish, 𝗧𝗪𝗧 replied, his feet up on a table. Had we agreed to cooperate with the Hasai group? We might be dining on fine sushi now, said 𝗵𝗃 quietly from his corner. Is that a joke? Not funny, snapped 𝗧𝗪𝗧. Ho. Come now. We're the mighty League of Villains that terrorize the nation, and we live in squalor. We do a disservice to all those who idolize us and what we stand for. In the corner, Twice and Toga were rooting through the refuse from the heist. It's just junk. Ooh, this is pretty though, cried Toga. Ooh, real cute, said Twice, then as usual contradicting himself corrected. For a spinster, maybe. Toss it. The door opened and 𝗵𝗲𝗺 joined us. You're all just kicking back. He growled out. I guess I'm the only one pounding the pavement looking for recruits. Yeah, said Twice. Too bad you roast everyone you bump into. And you haven't brought in any fresh blood. They were all worthless, just trash, living day to day without any real ambitions. Toga smiled at him. Maybe you're just bad at judging others. You, of all people, don't get to say that. 𝗧𝗪𝗧, currently eating a biscuit, added, it has been about a month since they caught Kurogiri, right? He said he was getting us some new power. Oh well, he failed, so that's that. No luck finding the doctor either. Kurogiri was your babysitter. Toga noted as Twice helped her fasten the necklace, so you must miss him a lot, Tenya. What's so important about that doctor anyway? He was Master's personal doctor, a real cautious guy. The only way to get in touch with him was through the computer at the hideout, since he's the one who developed and managed the 𝗵𝗲𝗺. 𝗵𝗃 nodded. No matter how cautious the doctor is, you'd think he could drop us a line and maybe give us a hand, especially when you consider that his former employer's golden boy is reduced to squatting. He didn't deny missing Kurogiri, piped up Toga. Tenya really does miss him. I could feel frustration boiling up in me. That was enough. I just couldn't take it anymore. Hey, I asked 𝗧𝗪𝗧, where are we going with all this? I'm only here 'cause Stain inspired me to take action. I was born in a real backwater place, stuck in the last century. Around there I was known as the lizard freak, and I just accepted it. That whole time my heart was totally empty. That is, until I learned about Stain's final stand on the evening news. He was trying to change the world on his own. That day was the day I realized how suffocating society really is. I just couldn't take it anymore. This is the reason I joined up with you people. 𝗬𝗲𝗺 sneered as I headed over to Shigaraki. So what you're saying is basically you're just an empty cosplayer. That's right, totally hollow. I reached down, seized Shigaraki's coat, and pulled him off his rear to look me in the eye. Which is why I don't get why we're sitting around doing nothing. I was ready to have some new life breathed into me, to be inspired. So answer me, Shigaraki, where are we going? There was silence. Like I said, Shigaraki began, but he was interrupted by a terrible rumbling sound. Something was approaching. I hurried towards the door, following the others as they grabbed their equipment and headed out to face down this new threat. I was waiting for the signal. Came a booming, terrible voice from far, far above us. We all looked up to see a man the size of a gigantic mountain towering over us, a muscular and powerful being that seemed to dwarf us all in size by a mile. Are you the one who succeeded all for one? Shigaraki tipped up the severed hand that covered his face and smiled. Is this the power you alluded to, Kurogiri? 𝗬𝗲𝗺 tilted his head to one side. So, who's this? You mean to say Kurogiri set out in search of this fellow? Asked 𝗵𝗃𝗲. He must be the secret weapon master left behind for me, hissed Shigaraki. As he spoke, the giant discarded the radio which had hung from his neck. I devote myself to all for one. Now, successor, prove that you are worthy. The other members exchanged glances of some surprise. 6 weeks later it's Endeavor. He's back up. He's doing that pose. In victory. No to signal his start. Our new #1 hero had fought like crazy to stop one of those Namu from tearing the city apart. Everyone was super excited. But all I could think of was poor Todoroki, while was kneeling and praying in relief as the members of our class gathered around him. I did not wish to crowd him, so I stayed in the doorway, breathing a sigh of relief. On screen Endeavor was slumping a bit, but Hawks had caught up to him and was giving him a helping hand. He sat him down gently. It looked as though they were going to be. No, someone was approaching them. Look, cried out Kaminari. Todoroki turned to face the screen again. There was another person with them, a man with spiky black hair and a long black trench coat. I remembered him, though I had only seen him from a distance from behind a crumbling wall in a battle at Kamino Ward, a difficult face to forget. 𝗬𝗲𝗺 of the League of Villains. And he'd surrounded our top 2 heroes with a wall of flame. Yes, the League of Villains is here. It's League member 𝗬𝗲𝗺. He surrounded Endeavor and Hawks with a wall of flames, said the TV. It's him, gasped Sensei. But out in the open like that. What's he thinking? He was heading towards Endeavor and Hawks as if preparing to. No, please don't harm them. From up above, they were saved. Our #5 hero, Rabbit Hero Maruko, came barreling down and blew them in different directions with a giant kick, sending the fire away. 𝗬𝗲𝗺 grabbed his collar and started being swallowed by the same black sludge we had seen transport the League from the battlefield at Kamino. It was surrounding him, but it didn't look like it was going to do anything to Endeavor and Hawks, just opening up a portal gate and pulling him away. Thank goodness. I breathed out at last. We were safe, for the moment, from the League taking away another hero from our cause. I took a seat as my classmates gathered once again around Todoroki. The crisis has passed. They headed off the danger. The threat is now gone. They can't hear me down there, but let me say this. Endeavor, and you too, Hawks, you risked your lives to protect us all and you won. Our new top hero is there. And what I'd like to say to him now is thank you. What a great relief to us all. It had been something quite horrible to watch my poor classmate. I had worried he might have to endure what I had done myself, not so long ago. He might still have to. All that damage Endeavor had taken ... he wouldn't be taken down like All Might, or ... or like Tensei. Only a few months ago, my older brother Tensei Iida, the great pro hero named Ingenium, was crippled by the hero killer stain. He can never walk or act as a pro hero again. He was my idol, and I aspired to be just like him as a hero one day. Since then, those in the League of Villains who were inspired by that man have only caused more and more terrible trouble for myself and my classmate. They attacked our training camp. They kidnapped my classmate Katsuki Bakugo. And they made it their mission to harm my teacher, the world's greatest hero and eternal #1 All Might, so that he could no longer be the symbol of peace. Ever since then, our world has been living in a time of great tension and fear. But now it seems we have a new idol. And this time the League did not succeed in their dastardly plan. We were free to continue on at UA, working our way towards becoming the world's greatest heroes. It was really a remarkable battle, wasn't it? Said Tensei, smiling as we chatted over the family dinner table. After watching Todoroki nearly lose his father, I felt a strong urge to see my brother and mother again. They welcomed a visit and were eager to hear details of everything I did at UA. Your classmates really threw you a birthday party. Oh, Tenya, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you found some nice people to spend time with. Indeed, my classmates and I are. Well, we all support each other through everything, including some rather heavy things. I, though, recalling Bakugo's kidnapping and Midoriya's tears with some sorrow. And you get to be the class rep, said Tensei with a wistful smile. I knew you'd be the top. Trust our Tenya. Well, I said, I only really received the position because Midoriya elected me to it. You talk about Midoriya a lot. It seems like you respect him, and a lot of your peers do as well. That means his vote means an awful lot, don't you think? I nodded assent. Indeed, Midoriya is one of the most respected students in our entire class. He works incredibly hard, perhaps too much. I worry about him, though. Sometimes it seems like he works far too hard for his own good. Sounds like someone else I know, said Tensei, ruffling my hair from across the table. Mom tilted her head. It's good that you worry about your classmates, Tenya, but don't forget to take care of yourself too. Your eyes are looking a little red. Have you been getting enough sleep? Of course, taking care of oneself is one of the most important responsibilities of all, I said, and a rather uncomfortable memory came through my mind. The thought of seeing poor All Might Sensei for the first time, without his muscle form, knowing that he had run himself ragged like that to look after us and keep the world safe. And now those same dark circles appearing under Midoriya's eyes, and Uraraka's too, after the recent incident with Eri. She, Asui, and Kirishima had begun to wear that same aura of worry. By the way, Tenya, said Tensei with a grin, how are your mufflers healing up? Well, thank you. I should be able to debut my new ultimate move before my classmates very soon. I look forward to introducing them to it. Be careful with it, dear, said Mother. It's not to be used lightly. I'll remember. And your advice about keeping myself in good shape as well. I took my leave and headed back to school, escorted by 𝗵𝗲-sensei. It was a valuable meeting, but now it was time to get back to work. Back at UA High, we were preparing for our very first joint training exercise with Class 1B, and our first training in the winter gear. Of course, my costume had been designed to accommodate both winter and summer temperatures, so I wasn't at all changed. Ieyasu had donned a large cape and a 𝗧𝗵𝗲 jacket, though 𝐒𝐻𝐿 still wore nothing but boots and gloves. Aren't you cold, 𝐒𝐻𝐿? Jiryu asked her. Totally freezing. Toughing it out. Huh. My winter style's cool as heck, don't you think? Smiled 𝗧𝗵𝗲, spreading out her arms to show off the cape. Jiryu and Uraraka hadn't changed at all, and Asui had merely added neck warmers. All of our costumes have undergone considerable transformations since the school year began, I noticed, thinking about my own new accommodations. It's crazy how you made it through the summer in that getup, Iida, said Sato as he pulled on his mask. Nearby, Midoriya had caught sight of Bakugo's new winter look and had immediately seemed impressed. You've got a new look too, Kaken. Huh, got a problem with it? Then say it, to my face, you stupid nerd. Bakugo yelled. He'd swapped out his tank top for a sweater with a turtleneck. Midoriya gushed, your costume must guard against the cold and generate heat? Yeah, since your sweat glands serve as weapons, it only stands to reason. What great modification. I don't want your praise either. Bakugo snarled back. You've got the most drastic upgrades though, Midoriya said on Jiro. Those gloves are recent, right? I need to keep up my new abilities. And yeah, the gloves are pretty awesome. This is already my second pair. Actually, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 modified them to take more of a beating. Right, 𝗧𝗵𝗲? She certainly does drive me to distraction with her strange behavior, but there's no denying her talent or how hard she works to create our modifications. As I contemplated these issues, I noticed that Uraraka was wearing a funny look and suddenly punched herself in the face. What a strange thing to do. Oh, are we slacking off? Came that smarmy, arrogant voice we all knew way too well. Is that your way of underestimating us? Oh, they're here, said Kirishima. Nope, we're not underestimating anyone. Just excited. Hey, is that so? To and for you. The tides are rolling our way now. Hear me, Class A. Today is the day we settle this rivalry. Monoma screamed as Class 1B shot him confused looks. He pulled a sheet of paper dramatically out of his pocket. Check out this survey I took at the Culture Festival. Which did people prefer, Class A's dinky concert or Class B's ultra-high-quality theatrical production? Well, take a look. Yes, our margin of victory was 2 entire votes. Oh dear, after all we'd done to make that concert the best it could be. Kirishima and Jiro both took up the paper, and Jiru's face fell. For real? Well, can't argue since we didn't see their show. You've been hogging the spotlight like pigs in slop ever since school started, but those days are coming to an end. Because today it's a versus B, our first joint battle training. And we're gonna arg. Kendo had been heading towards him to karate chop him silent, but Mr. Aizawa got there first. Quiet, you. He and Vlad King Sensei were facing both our classes now. We've got a special guest today, said Vlad Sensei. So try not to make fools of yourselves, said Mr. Aizawa. A guest? Asked Ieyasu. Fresh meat. Bakugo yapped. A girl, I hope, said Kaminari. We'll show him the ropes, said Tetsu. He's hoping to transfer to the hero course, said Mr. Aizawa. And Midoriya and Ajiro both gasped. It was the guy from the sports festival who had fought Midoriya. Itoshi Shinso, from Class C of General Studies. Shinsu, gasped Ajiro. So that explains the look you gave me earlier in the hall, said Midoriya. Everyone had started buzzing about our new guest. He was dressed in regulation gym uniform, but with a neckcloth not unlike Mr. Aizawa's and a strange device around his neck shaped bit like Midoriya's own metal grill. In appearance up close, I saw that he had dark circles under his drooping eyes, and his slender features and spiked-up hair made him look like a younger version of Sensei. Isn't that Aizawa-sensei's binding cloth? The mask looks unique, though. Good to have you, man. He can brainwash those who respond to him, right? Aoyama asked Tojiro. I didn't stand a chance. Midoriya got whammed too, but broke the spell somehow, Minda commented. That was just a fluke, really, sweated Midoriya. Go on, introduce yourself, Sensei told Shinsu. He looked around at all of his, sporting a serious frown. I had encounters with several of you at the sports festival, but don't think that we're friends just because we fought. I'm not the type for displays of good sportsmanship like that. I'm already so far behind you all. I'm doing everything I can to catch up. I'll be a great hero someday, and strive to use my quirk to help people. So to me, all of you here are just obstacles to overcome. I'm not here to make friends. Wow, delightful, sighed Uraraka. How stiff, said Takoyami, clapping politely. Reminds me of early Roki. Zero snarked at Todoroki, who glanced at him rather good-naturedly. Oh yeah, Monoma alone. No, not alone. Midoriya wore the same look, was grinning. I like this guy. Let's get right to it, then, said Sensei. Battle training time. It's a series of matches pitting Class A against Class B. The battlefield is one section of Athletic Field Gamma. Both classes will split into teams of 4 and square off against another team. 4-person teams, said a girl in a lizard bodysuit. Should be fun. Yep, fun, said a girl next to her, who was dressed like a large mushroom. But Shinso added in, said a boy who looked rather like a large beast. We've got 41 altogether. How do we account for him? Shinso will be participating in 2 matches, joining Class A for one and Class B for the other, meaning 2 of the 5 matches will be 5 versus 4. That's not fair for the 4-person teams, cried Hagakure. Vlad King Sensei shook his head. The 4 students who have to incorporate the inexperienced Shinso are actually at a disadvantage. Having 5 members will give you the edge numbers-wise, but it's also a handicap. The scenario this time around is heroes trying to capture steam of villains. So think of the opposing team as villains. Capture 4 of your opponents to win. Villains do the team-up thing too, huh? Said the mushroom girl to Tetsu, the boy who Kirishima had fought at the sports festival. He punched his hand and fist together. Nice and simple. Love it. I felt my mind spinning out of control with the complexity of this assignment. I have so many questions. What are we supposed to be doing with this? So we're heroes, but the opponent views us as villains. Which role do we play up then? Let's go with heroes, suggested Yaoyorozu. Each team's home base has a 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 lock-em-up prison. The instant someone's thrown in the cage, they count as captured. What high stakes, I cried. The efficient strategy would be to disable the enemy near our own base, said the Beast Boy. Easier said than done, probably. Capture 4 opponents to win. Is that what you meant by handicap? Asked Bakugo. Yes, said Sensei. Not only is Shinso inexperienced, but the 5-person team he's on still loses if 4 members are caught. So that team's gotta fight while carrying deadweight. Crap, said Bakugo. That's a nasty way to phrase it. He's not wrong, said Shinsu. This guy's light years ahead in the maturity department, cried Kaminari. Sensei and Vlad King both held up boxes labeled Lots A and Lots B. Now, time to draw lots. We drew. I was in Group 3, with Todoroki, Shoji, and Ajiro. Yaoyorozu was in Group 2 of Class 1A, alongside Aoyama, Takoyami, and Hagakure. Kaminari was on the first team with Kirishima, Asui, and Koda, Bakugo on the 4th with Jiru, Zero and Sato, and Midoriya, Uraraka, Minda, and Ashido in 5th. Now you, Shinso, said Vlad King. You'll join 1 team from each class. He was to be with 1A for the first round, and 1B for the 5th. I know you said all that stuff, said Kirishima. But heck, I still want to be friends. Good to have ya. Tell us how your quirk works, said Tsu. With those looks, you must be popular with the ladies. I can tell, said Kaminari. Thanks for having me, said Shinsu. I like you already. You seem ready to crush that rotten Class A into the dirt. Please ignore everything he says, said one other 1B boys on his team. Thanks for having me, said Shinsu. Going 5th. You'll be getting a rematch with him, Deku, said Uraraka. Yeah, with Shinsu all powered up, I can't wait to see how he fights. Teams start at their home bases. The time limit is 20 minutes per match. If time runs out, the team with more remaining members wins. We gathered then in the entertainment zone, where we could watch the field on the monitors. Ashido had turned around and cried, All Might and Midnight are here. Together, is love in the air. Cut that out, Midnight replied. I don't mess with older men. They joined us and continued speaking in the back. Now, said Vlad King Sensei. Match 1, start. The League of Villains hideout. I devote myself to all for one. Now, successor, prove that you are worthy. The other members exchanged glances of some surprise. Less than a minute later, the League of Villains, that powerful group at the name of which the rest of the world trembled, was being blasted back by the swipes of the hands of the towering behemoth. Why? Tell me why. Oh Lord, 𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗲. Why is he so weak? What's up? Asked Spinner. He doesn't make any sense. A voice came crackling in over the radio which had hung on the giant's neck, now seated on the ground. A crackling, horrible, smug, old voice. You seem to be at a loss, 𝗵𝗲 Shigaraki. Doctor, Shigaraki murmured. Did you say doctor? Asked Spinner. Could it be the doctor we're looking for? Are all your pals there with you? How have you all been doing? Fine, thanks. But we're about to be mincemeat, said Shigaraki as the creature raised its fists preparing to smash them into the ground. The force of the blow turned the rocks around them to beaten pieces of rubble and sent the League scattering. I want to accept him, but all for one, I just can't. Why not? Asked Shigaraki. I take it you've met 𝗧𝗵𝗲, came the doctor's voice. He's a big supporter of All for One. He even used to be his bodyguard. He is one of the people All for One trusted most. With that extraordinarily durable body of his, he could handle multiple quirks even without getting remodeled first. When All for One was weakened by All Might, he knew his defeat was inevitable, so he hid 𝗧𝗵𝗲 away. Such careful planning. And all this happened just a few years after he picked you up. No matter what might happen to him, he made sure his hopes and dreams would live on. Call me crazy, snapped 𝗬𝗵𝗲, but I'm having a hard time seeing this as some generous gift. Nice insight, 𝗬𝗬𝗧. I'd say you're right. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 is loyal to a fault. So loyal that it hurts him to think that Shigaraki doesn't measure up to his old master. 𝗬𝗬𝗧's hands twitched, the words of competition hitting a nerve. From the open hands, a wall of flames blasted him into the sky, high above the others. We'd better go all out to show him we're worthy. And a wall of flames came barreling towards the monster. That won't be enough, came the calm, impersonal voice over the radio. For now ..hm, let me see. And the flames came into Machia's mouth, swallowed and ineffectual. Not very effective, 𝗬𝗬𝗧, cried out Himiko Toga. Machia, came a radio voice, but a different voice this time, not the doctor's. The familiar voice of the League's old master. All for One. The creature instantly changed. No longer raging, he was bent on all fours over the radio, clutching it in his large hands and rubbing his head up against it, even purring rather like an oversized cat. A recording of All for One's voice is just the thing to calm him down, the doctor explained. We don't want this guy, said Shigaraki. Oh, you don't? It could be quite handy to have in the future. Kurogiri has been babying you for too long. Open your eyes, boy. That's harsh, doctor. 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Give me a minute. There was silence. A minute for what? Asked Toga, looking nervous. I swear, if this old coot doesn't get to the point, burp. Gasped twice. Really, Jin? Burping. Gross, began Toga. But she was interrupted by the same noise coming from her own mouth. From her mouth came the black sludge, a familiar one. Isn't this the quirk All for One used in Kamino? Cried Mr. Compress. How? Why? What's going on, One? Let's have a real chat. The voice of the doctor echoed behind them as they all disappeared in the black sludge. They were no longer at the hideout, but instead in a large laboratory surrounded by test tubes containing what looked like larger, even more powerful Numu. Watching them from a chair before a large monitor was an old man, bald, with a large mustache, shiny goggles, and a hooked nose. Stinky, coughed Toga. This is. Shigaraki looked around. Where are we now? Asked 𝗬𝗬𝗧, but then something in attack caught his eye. Inamu, but unlike any we've seen before. Ho, came the doctor's voice. Can you tell the difference? Ho. Once again you've got sharp pair of eyes, 𝗬𝗬𝗧. Yep, these little ones are nothing like the mid and low-level Namu. They're high-end, super Namu. I could almost call masterpieces. Impressive? My finest work yet. We were facing off with Class 1B to see which of our two groups would prevail. Shinsu had begun explaining his quirk to the other members of class. First I have to focus my attention on the target and think, this is who I'm going to brainwash. Once they respond, the brainwashing takes effect and they automatically follow my commands. A strong physical blow will break my hold, but even that depends on how I initially take control. Brainwashing multiple targets at once is probably impossible, though I haven't tried it. It'd split my focus too much. Still, said Tsu, putting her finger to her lips while Kaminari clapped his hands to his mouth, that's a powerful skill to use when they don't know it's coming. But I can't command the target to speak, Shinsu continued, or use their own brain in any way. For example, if I held up a sign with 𝗬𝗧 and said write this, the order would work. But I couldn't make them draw on their own knowledge to produce the name. It's too bad that most heroes' gimmicks become common knowledge, said Kaminari. Basically, you want people ignoring you. I also have this, said Shinsu, pointing to the metal grill on his face. Kinda like an extra set of vocal cords. My personal cords mask acts like a modulator, since my quirk's fact doesn't work if I speak into a mic or megaphone. It distorts my voice too much. All these little plates shift around and resonate to modify how my actual voice sounds when it projects. Meaning, it's a voice modifier, right? Wow, that makes you super strong, man. But this equipment is only as strong as. But he was interrupted by the start buzzer. Oh, it's starting. We didn't come up with a plan, so we just gotta wing it. They began making their way out through the battlefield. 𝐬𝐴 was using her camouflage technique to stick to the walls and look around while 𝗂𝐲 did some scouting. Each team basically knows what the other's capable of, said 𝗬𝐴. So let's stick together and overwhelm them with our numbers. Shouldn't I put some distance between us so I can do my thing? Asked Kaminari. Not too far, though, said Kirishima. You don't want to end up alone. True enough, kinda scared of Shizaki. Given her range and track record with me, Kaminari sighed. We'll want to start by taking down whoever's got the nastiest quirk, said Shinsu, who seemed a bit irritated by poor Kaminari. Kaminari, however, seemed oblivious to this. You're getting the hang of this, Shinsu. That much would be obvious to anyone, Shinsu grumped back. Which means, 𝐬𝐴 interrupted, we ought to eliminate Ibarra, while our foes are likely to go after Kaminari first, or possibly Shinso. With his powerful brainwashing and relative lack of experience. Thanks for having my back, guys, Kaminari cried. Wanna set this up so you two can go all out, Kirishima assured him. As he spoke, several pigeons came flying down from the sky and landed on 𝗂𝐲's arm. He conversed with them briefly, then said thank you. Found her already? Asked Kirishima. Shizaki is advancing on the left, said 𝗂𝐲. She's alone, coming toward us while using her vines to search. I'm not all that thrilled about going after a girl, said Kirishima. But he stopped at the sound of something falling over. From seemingly nowhere, the Beast Boy from Class 1B came flying around the corner. He was in full beast mode now, and had seized 𝐬𝐴 in one hand and Kirishima in the other. Huh, Kirishima, cried Kaminari. 𝗬𝐴 had been thrown into construction equipment. We took 𝗂𝐲's search method into account, cried the Beast Boy, Jiroda Shishida. And we knew you'd be most wary of Shizaki. She was the bait while I snuck up on you all. Giving you time to prepare would have allowed Kaminari to do what he's best at. So a brutal head-on attack was our best option. I've got a nose for these things. The boy with the hard air quirk popped up from Shishida's back. Training my quirk gave me a new move, he cried. It's soundproof solitary confinement. His breath informed an air prison around 𝗂𝐲 like a glass cube. Now wreck them, Shishida, he cried, though he had not moved his lips. You got it, cried Shishida. And we're done here, panicked Kaminari. But Shishida had stopped moving. Shinsu, how are you talking with my voice? Asked Tsuburaba, the air breath boy. That mask, Midoriya cried. Persona cords, replied Shinsu. He made a move to use his neck scarf, perhaps as a capture device, like Sensei's. But too slow, cried Tsuburaba, catching Shinsu in an air prison. Wake up, cried Tsuburaba, slapping Shishida. They didn't mention a voice modified though. Now, wreck him for real. Kaminari was gearing up for an attack, but Shishida was already preparing to hit him. Gah, can't have that, cried Tsuburaba, jumping off his back. If he hits Kaminari, he'll be electrocuted. But despite this, he hit him anyway, throwing him into construction equipment. A tongue shot out and wrapped around Tsuburaba in midair while Shishida was shaking from Kaminari's electricity. Got you, cried 𝗬𝐴. Toss him in the slammer, 𝗬𝐴, cried Kaminari. Shishida was chasing after 𝗬𝐴, bearing down upon her, dwarfing her in size. Wah, but I shocked him, cried Kaminari. 𝗂𝐲 and Kirishima were preparing their attacks, 𝗂𝐲 having broken out of his glass prison and Kirishima in unbreakable mode. Come, little ones, lend me your strength, 𝗂𝐲 called, summoning insects to his side. Red Gauntlet, Kirishima yelled. Shishida, running at them, transformed back into human mode and flew between the two. And once more, beast mode, he cried, and turned back, seizing them both. You're the only one who can match my strength, Kirishima. How do you like this? He cried, and tossed Kirishima into the air, towards Shizaki. She looked up at him. A bereft little lamb from the heavens, she murmured, as her vine hair flew towards Kirishima, dragging him down. And Shishida's hand had clamped around 𝗂𝐲's mouth, preventing him from speaking. 𝗂𝐲, cried Kaminari, tossing his electrocution discs towards Shishida, who dodged them, but turned around smelling 𝗬𝐴 leaping from behind. I know you're there, he cried, jumping back towards the building as 𝗂𝐲 continued to struggle. That's two of yours for only one of ours, he shouted, running away through the construction equipment. Vlad King Sensei was smiling quite smugly as he seized the commentator's microphone. We've got prisoners already. 𝐴𝐻𝐼𝐴𝐻𝐼DA and �TSUBURABAS wild ploy paid off quick. My bad, 𝗂𝐲, Kirishima was murmuring to him. She got me good. Tsuburaba was looking like he was about to throw up in prison after being wrapped up in tongue. Both teams have 3 members left, but Class B has the psychological advantage. Vlad King gloated. During the sports festival, Bakugo cracked these things like it was nothing. That guy must have made him tougher, said Kaminari as Tsu broke Shinsu out of the glass prison with a pipe. Class B is strong, she murmured. Will these fearsome moves from my precious students finally be the thing to put class in its place? Gloated Sensei, cheered on by Monoma. Simon, you're totally biased, cried Mina, as she, Jiru, and Aoyama held up protest signs. Shishida's strength is wild, said Siro. His sniffer's no joke, either, said Sato. What now, Tsu? Asked Kaminari. Feels like we're losing. Learning the ins and outs of Shinso's quirk took a lot of time. We just weren't prepared for them. I should have been quicker with my binding attack, said Shinso, fiddling with his voice changer and looking repentant. Sorry. No, I should apologize, said Tsu, for putting you on the front line. My poor strategizing was to blame. We can seriously get hurt during full-blown battle training, said Kaminari. But those were some slick moves you made. You even managed to save me. Guess I'm trying to say good job. You said you're not here to make friends, but I'm a fan already. You're cut out to be a hero for sure. Shinsu scratched the back of his head, looking a little embarrassed. Whatever ... So what's our plan now? I have an idea, said Asui. She pulled down her sleeve to reveal some kind of slime. Kaminari, locate your target. Meanwhile, Class B had reconvened on their side. Shizaki looked quite upset. The decoy for a sneak attack. Ah, such a sinful deed deserves a good lashing. A lashing, cried Shishida. But it worked out perfectly. Only 3 of them left. And if we capture 2, it's our win. But losing Tsuburaba hurts us, said Ron, their remaining member. The secret's out about Shinso's voice modifier, so we just gotta snag him, and then we can totally ignore the real pain in the butt. Kaminari, he stopped and sniffed the air. What's this? How'd you even notice that, Tsu? Amazing. Kaminari was crying as their trio moved through the construction site. It's more amazing that you didn't notice it stick to him, Kaminari, said Asui. Ah, Kaminari's targets. We've got 3 Asuis heading for us, cried Shishida. I shall have to teach them that such schemes are steeped in sin, said Shizaki, her hair starting to come to life. Is he losing it? Asked Takage. The girl's not ectoplasm sensei. There's only one Asui. Midoriya, Minta whispered to him. Do you think it's that? Yup, that's it. She must have coated the other 2 with it, making their sense. If even we almost forgot about it, there's no way Class B would expect it. Oh, a quirk of Asui's we are unfamiliar with? What a surprise. Given Shishida's heightened senses, said Asui. We should assume that he's always got a lock on our positions. Now we exploit that, said Shinso. He'll be smelling 3 Tsuris. As long as we're out of sight, he won't know who's who. Seems like he hasn't noticed my target yet either. Not seeing any weird moves. The real issue is where the other 2 are, said Shinsu. Let's take Shishida first and worry about them later, said Kaminari. HI's nose and strength are bad news for us. By the way, you doing okay, Tsu? He walloped you good. I managed to take that hit, but I can't go toe-to-toe with him. I swear on the name of Vine that the schemers will be judged. Shizaki was crying. Their positions now, oh apocalypse beast. At 10, 12, and 2 o'clock, fanning out. They're on the ground closing in on us fast. And could you not call me that? It's Jevoden. Closing in, said Rin. They must have our locations. None of them have a quirk that can search, right? Ipake best. Hey, something's stuck to you. Isn't that one of Kaminari's captured one? Said Shizaki. We don't know exactly who's gonna show up, cried Rin. Get back, Shishida, just in case it's Kaminari, and indeed it was. Ding ding ding. Let me tell you what you've won, cried Kaminari. Since you're all together, you get a 3-way zapping. Shizaki threw out her hair to create a shield to deflect Kaminari's quirk. You sure about that? Kaminari grinned. He was pointed now for the device on Shishida's leg, but Rin had shot out dragon scales to rip the device off of Shishida just in time. Huh, cried Kaminari. Close one, said Rin. More coming. Get those vines back up. Very well. Their positions, please. She stopped. Hey, cried Rin. That wasn't me talking just now. Shisnu, indeed, was hiding close by. A few minutes before, we had seen them making this rather intriguing plan. Yikes, look. All the vines coming from Shishida's location. They must be together. If we get caught, it's over. Do we retreat? Asked Shinsu. Wait, I've got a nasty plan. How about I get myself caught on purpose? They're wary of me, and I'm the last one they want, right? Plus, during the sports festival, she had to use a whole ton of vines to block my shocks. If I charge in there as a mark, she'll have fewer vines to search for you guys with. That's when you 2 sneak up from behind. Shishida, you got a lock on them, cried Rin. Shishida did not respond, simply pointing. Just tell me, man, you're getting too paranoid. Is one of them over there or what? Hey, talk to me. Aya, I know it's safer when we can see each other's lips. But he threw scales towards Shizaki, but Asui had gotten there first and swept Shizaki off the ground with her tongue. There we go, she murmured. She can't be hit by your scale bullets over there. Rin was aiming his attacks at Asui now. Shishida, Asui's hiding. Forget Shinso, give me Asui's position. He refused to speak, and 𝐬𝐴SUI came in with a powerful kick from above, taking out Rin. Shishida was now tearing up the construction site, headed towards Shinsu's hiding place. He had him cornered, but Shinsu at last threw out his capture scarf to pull down construction equipment on Shishida's head, just like Sensei would. But Shishida was still headed towards him. Rin was flying through the air towards him. "Down, 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏!" he cried. But Shishida did not turn, at least, not in time. He must have assumed once again that this was Shinsu, and Rin flew into his head, knocking him out. "Pardon me," said Tsu. "Man, Shinso's one tough customer. He's definitely no handicap," said 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. 𝗬𝐴SUI and Kaminari thought on their feet and made good use of Shinso's abilities. Cried Midoriya. "Wow, lagging behind us," she was saying to Shinso. "Not at all. You're quite powerful, Shinsu." "No, I have a ways to go. Relying on others isn't good enough. I need to go pro on my strengths alone." All of Class 1B was in prison, and so, here Match 1 goes to Class A and Shinso, grumbled Vlad King. "Well done, classmates. They set a high standard to which I must live up." League of Villains hideout. The League of Villains stood in between the gigantic test tubes, filled with floating Numu, peering towards the end of the corridor where the silhouetted doctor sat, just peering at them from his chair. "Doctor," said Shigaraki, "I've been looking for you for a reason. I need you to reproduce some bullets I've got." The doctor, rather than responding to him, chose to say, "You've let your hair grow out, Shigaraki. How are your father and the other doing?" After a pause in which he looked down at the many severed hands covering his coat, Shigaraki replied, "Fine." Mr. Compress, peering into the shadows, remarked, "Our doctor, I presume. It's too bright to make anything out. Stay back." The doctor suddenly shouted, his chair zipping along the ground and further out of sight, into an even more shadowy corner. "Ho, sorry about this, but I wouldn't recommend coming any closer. When we need to meet face to face, I'll come to you. And if you break this rule, I'll send you right back to that big old meat grinder. You're the one who summoned us, you freaky geezer," snapped twice. Dabai, sighing a little, asked, "Why are we here?" Once more choosing not to respond to the direct question, the doctor called, "I'd rather not give out my location, so I transported you all here instead. Besides, Shigaraki, you're all fresh faces to me, I guess. We might have met somewhere before, though," he added. And though it was not clear from his silhouette, that we seemed to be addressed more directly to the villain who had asked the question. "Like 𝗪𝗪𝗔𝗍, I'm one of 𝐿4𝗏's confidants. Daruma Yujiko is the name I'm giving myself for now. Anyhow, Shigaraki, I summoned you here out of respect for the boss. My life, my tech, and my little ones here, I offered them all up to the great 𝗨4𝗏. Up to now, you've been getting by with just scraps and leftovers of my work. Now I've got nothing against you. I just need to judge if you're worthy of having all of this." His tone, which had before been light and playful, suddenly became deadly serious. Had the League been able to see his eyes, they would now have seen them narrowing. "'Cause so far, you're nothing. Just a 20-year-old kid palling around with the dregs of society. So what do you have to show me, Tamura Shigaraki? I don't remember much about my life before meeting my master and you," Shigaraki was explaining. "Yeah, I'm aware," said the doctor, his glasses lighting up. Shigaraki took one of the severed hands out of his pocket. "And yet when I equip everyone all over me, my rage boils over. I can't help it. Ever since that day, I've done a lot of thinking. All I can really remember is my master holding me. Before then I'd been an empty shell, completely hollow." Spinner's expression changed. "Completely hollow." It all came rushing back to me in fragments like movie snippets. An inexplicable frustration so intense it made me feel nauseous. So when I have the whole family on me I feel so sick that I want to vomit. But I also kinda feel at peace. It's weird. All I've got are these fragmented images. Yet it's like there's a lump of lead deep down in my heart, providing endless source of that rage that bursts out. It's like I'll never feel good again. Even if hero society comes crashing down. Even if I rise to rule the underworld. That weight in my heart is never gonna go away. It's why I hate everything. Every living, breathing thing just rubs me the wrong way. So why not destroy it all? Why not destroy everything? I know you see it too. The beautiful horizon, just waiting for us. So lend me a hand, won't you, doctor? Heaven and hell, I'll show you." What a childish daydream. Saying all that with such a straight face was quite impressive. "Very well, Tamura Shigaraki. I'll help you out, so show me you mean it. Prove to me that you can make your pipe dreams a reality." "So easygoing," said Compress. "Tamura seems kind of disturbed," said Toga. "Wait, you want to destroy even the things I love? My allies are exceptions. You guys should get what you want in life." "Ooh-hoo," cried Toga. "Ha. You've passed with flying colors, Shigaraki. You were testing me. Sure, I wanted to see how much you've grown. But the plan was always to help you out. And these little ones are the first thing that'll do just that. As well as some research I've put together, all to give you power. But I can't give you that second thing yet, because without a doubt you're all weak. You'll need to prove yourselves first. The big guy, simple as he is a different story. Unlike me, he hasn't accepted you yet." "That's right. Make 𝗧𝗵𝗲 submit to you and everything have will be yours to use as you see fit. Right. This sure has been one long tutorial, said Shigaraki. Do what you want, Mr. Leader, but I ain't helping, said 𝗬𝗵𝗺. You're just pouting 'cause your fire didn't work, said Toga. Shut up, you lunatic. I've found a good potential ally, so I'm putting my time toward that. I'm not about to go out in a blaze of glory beside our leader here. I'm looking out for myself. Okay, bring this ally, then, said Shigaraki. I'll be waiting. Perfect, 𝗬𝗵𝗺. You can help me test out a high-end Namu, said the doctor. I know just the one. The perfect match for your let's say aesthetics. You two will get along great. Did you even pay attention? Well, said Shigaraki. Go on, send us back. I'm feeling like I could take on the world now. Use these to keep in touch with me, said the doctor, and an arm shot out from his chair while a tiny Namu with child's legs hopped into his lap. The arm handed the league communicators. Here we go, Johnny. Back to 𝗧𝗵𝗲 they go. The black sludge sent the league back to confront the massive being. Hey, it's the return of the future king, cried Shigaraki. A king must inspire dread, must be admired, must be strong. Go on, tell us what you learned, said Sensei. If my opponent doesn't want to engage in a fight, then my quirk's pretty darn useless, said Kirishima, removing his helmet. In a real fight, I'd be dead meat the second I got caught. I need to give more specific instruction to my bugs, said Koda. I was awesome, right? Cried Kaminari, who was slipping into his stupid mode. Go on, feel free to heap on the praise. Don't hold back, show me some love. You know you want to. We lost too, said Tsu. I wanted to win with the whole team intact. It all got a bit chaotic. After everything I learned, I couldn't even put a fraction of it to use, sighed Shinsu. It's frustrating. Nobody's a pro straight out of the gate, replied Mr. Aizawa. It took me 6 whole years to master the binding cloth. Remember that frustration you're feeling and use it as motivation. Right. The two who did work studies are quite hard on themselves, said Aoyama. Jiru was laughing quite loudly now. Meanwhile, 𝗵𝗲 doesn't know the meaning of modesty. Shinsu's youthful spirit. I love it, cried Miss Midnight, while behind her All Might grumbled. Cut that out. Sensei was giving the remaining students a talking to. Kirishima, focus up on setting up direct encounters where you get to brawl. Yes, sir. Koda, as you suggested, you need to work on your strategizing. Kaminari, your early game was a mess. Does it take losing your allies for you to finally put your talents to actual use? Yadi. Got that, Kaminari. Asui, you might messed up, but you reacted quickly and changed course. Hiro. Meanwhile, Vlad King Sensei was giving his own lecture. You all already know what I'm going to say, yeah. Was Shishida your central pillar or was it Shizaki? With consolidated leadership, you could have won this. Shizaki just can't bring herself to deceive others, said Monoma. Failing to take that into consideration ended up costing you. I gave our opponents a chance to strategize. Sorry about that, Shizaki, said Shishida. Burned by the fires of hell, Shizaki eplied. A certain someone managed to show us his worth, though. I look forward to our joint battle. Hey, Shinsu, let's cook up a plan to really make class cry, cried Monoma as he hurled Hismelf at Shinsu. We need a plan of our own, said Midoriya. He sat down with Uraraka, Mina and Mainta. Let's brainstorm and think about what we can do. Boo, said Uraraka, kneeling down to seat herself with them. Combo moves, cried Mina. We too should concoct a plan. I reminded my teammates. Certainly cannot allow Midoriya to get ahead, as my respected rival and classmate. I gathered my teammates around me in a circle. Is Todoroki the center of our plans? Asked Shoji. Who? Me, said Todoroki, tilting his head to the side. Naturally, I told him. You are our most powerful offensive team member from a long range. The dastardly villains on the other team, you mean Class 1B? Asked Anjiro. Part of this exercise is conceiving of our opponents as a real, legitimate foe, Anjiro. But if it's a real 𝗧𝗏𝗃, I need to be careful with how I use my quirk, Todoroki pointed out. True, indeed, I had not considered that. Shishida didn't mind the 𝗧𝗏𝗃 too much, Shoji observed. In any case, I added, noting the time running down. We shall require a plan to proceed. Good luck to Kendo and Team 2, cried Vlad King, while my classmates protested no more biased announcing. On the 1B side, their team was holding hands together in the middle, with Kendo calling, all right, let's do this. We'd all gathered in front of the big screen again to watch. Zero turned to Tetsu, the boy who'd fought Kirishima at the sports festival, and asked, what sort of role does Kendo play in Class B anyway? OHH, she's a gal who gets the job done. Turn down the volume. I mean, she's our class president after all. Smart as heck along with quick, level-headed decisions. And she pulls the whole class together with a good attitude. Without her, we'd all have been sucked into Monoma's orbit by now. She's basically Class B's big sister 𝗳𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃. Quick, level-headed decisions. Murmured Todoroki. If that's the case, I wonder if Ieyaruzu's operation will work. Operation. asked 𝗲𝗏𝗀. They know our quirks for the most part, Kendo was saying. But we've improved, and we might surprise them with new ultimate moves. So the first thing they'll do is scope us out. She was immediately proved right as Dark Shadow came bearing down on them. All yours, 𝗬𝗏𝗀, she cried. Scope you out. No, I'm here to take you out, cried Dark Shadow, as 𝗬𝗏𝗀 jumped into him. I'll be back, guys. He smirked. On our side, the team was running towards the B group. Dark Shadow has located them, 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵 told them. It seems they're directly in front of that towering smokestack. You're able to send your companion quite far now, said 𝗂𝗗𝗄. Perhaps you leveled up during your work study. In a way, though Dark Shadow won't last as long when it's farther away. Let's move. He jumped then. Dark Shadow was coming back. Ah, it's returning, said 𝗂𝗗𝗄. Everyone scatter. Back to me, Dark Shadow 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵 began, but stopped as Dark Shadow attacked him. 𝗬𝗏𝗀 popped out of the darkness. 𝗬𝗏𝗀 popped out a Dark Shadow, cried 𝐒𝐻𝐵𝗃𝗲. 𝗂𝗏𝗧 tossed capture nets his way, but he slipped into the darkness of the shadows on the pipes. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵, I'm gonna wear you like a suit. Very well, said 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵, whipping off his cloak. I shall stand against you with the technique Hawks helped me create. Black Fallen Angel. 𝐻𝐻. Black Fallen Angel. Sounds cool. Why don't you show me? Said 𝗬𝗏𝗀, disappearing into the darkness of the pipe. He's shifting through the shadows. 𝗂𝗏𝗧 cried. Another solo attacker. How unexpected. How did 𝗂𝗗𝗄? This is just like the last match, said 𝗲𝗏𝗀. They're messing with our expectations, said Todoroki, replying to him. In a zone full of pipes, pinning down his location is next to impossible, said 𝗲𝗏𝗀. You all right, 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵? Asked 𝗬𝗏𝗀. Yes, and then 𝗂𝗗𝗄 was screaming as 𝗬𝗏𝗀 seized his cape from behind, dragging him along the pipes of the construction site and towards the prison. 𝗂𝗗𝗄 and 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵 was hot on his trail, pulling out a brand new move, letting Dark Shadow to carry him as he flew. Is that what you thought? He called after 𝗬𝗏𝗀. He's flying, our opponent team on Class B shouted, and taking 𝗂𝗗𝗄 back from 𝗬𝗏𝗀. Good job, 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵. Well done, 𝗂𝗏𝗧 shouted. 𝗂𝗗𝗄, use naval buffet. Keep flying about, 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵. Enough to alter every shadow around. Dark Shadow, under my cape, now, cried 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵 as 𝗂𝗗𝗄's quirk blasted into high gear and shone a light through the whole site. The shadows are shifting, which means 𝗬𝗏𝗀. And he popped out from his hiding place. There he is, 𝗬𝗏𝗃. 𝗂𝗏𝗧 called. Awesome, he's mine now, she called, ready for a fight. I was quite prepared to expect the unexpected, 𝗂𝗏𝗧 cried, and then a mushroom grew at the end of her nose. On the other end, Mushroom Girl Kanoko Komori was saying, all this light means 𝗬𝗏𝗀 failed. Kendo's already a step ahead. Now for Plan B, mushrooms for all. Everyone everywhere, ever shroom. And indeed, those mushrooms were growing all over the place, covering the entire construction site in fungi. Blackwood cauliflower shroom, yellow night shroom, enoki shroom, and kai cap shroom. Grow, cover the earth with me, make it shroom-tastic. Oh no, cried 𝗂𝗏𝗧. They're totally revealing my curves. How embarrassing, shouted 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗲. These fungi are spreading across the entire arena, and 𝗬𝗏𝗀 has vanished from sight, cried 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵. They even sprout on people's bodies. How freaky, shook 𝗵𝗲𝗄. Her mushrooms all vanish after 2 or 3 hours, so she's not that scary, said a waste of Class 1B. It's why she goes for the buckshot approach. They just keep popping up. 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗲 was shouting. Stay calm, everyone. We need to regroup. 𝗂𝗏𝗧 replied. Crash, boom, wham bam, came a voice, and giant sound effects cut through the entire construction site. The area was crashing, falling apart. What is all that? Cried 𝗂𝗗𝗄. Fukudashi. His quirk brings onomatopoeia to life. Crap, Yamomo. I'm on top of my game. He was crying. That boom was more like kerbush. Made my heart go boom. Even my laser cannot put a dent in these things. 𝗂𝗗𝗄 was shouting, huh? Why is it 𝗳𝗵𝗲𝗄? Said 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗲. Then cried, it's a humidifier. The shrooms are growing out of control. 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗲, cried 𝗧𝗏𝗄𝐵. Our long-range attack boys are in a bind? Huh, said Sato. Who cares? Look, cried 𝗬𝗏. That wall cut 𝗂𝗏𝗧 from the group. She was standing alone, looking nervous, cut off from the team. Now to take her down by force. Came a cry from above her, and Kendo jumped down to attack. Shield, 𝗂𝗏𝗧 shouted. A tungsten wall sprung up to protect her from the attack, and it was crushed to pieces, forcing her backwards. Kendo landed before her, well prepared to attack. An impressive showing from my counterpart in Class 1B. Hand to hand is my field of expertise, you know. I might actually win. I'm not giving you time to think. Nulla. And she was on her, hitting her with a barrage of her fists. Too fast to react, she worked the situation to her advantage instantly. That's our 𝗀𝗄𝗄, screamed Tetsutatsu. Not necessarily the best tactic, replied Todoroki. If she isolated Ieyasu because she's wary of her, she may have misread things. If they knew the threat Ieyasu posed, all four of them would have teamed up and crushed her right off the bat. Meanwhile, she was creating a giant cannon. Oh come on. But cannon, gasped Kendo. It takes quite a bit of time to create something so big. Ieyasu replied, and it looked like she was gonna blow Kendo away. Overkill? No, my deputy. She could kill someone with that, cried Tetsu. That girl loves cannons, said another Class B kid. Ieyasu had turned the cannon toward the wall. Apologies for frightening you. This is one out-of-control plan, said Kendo, readying, aiming and heading for an attack on Ieyasu, who had fired the cannon over the wall instead of into it. And she was out, knocked down by Kendo. Meanwhile, can't stop twinkling, Tokoyami shouted as that Kiwaro grabbed Aoyama from him again. Stupid fungi, just stop, he cried, while a bunch of kanji came at him. Cried Hagakure from near where he landed. Invisible girl, he shouted, looking the boom, the cannon Dark Shadow. Gotcha. And he grabbed Hagakure while Dark Shadow flew him up in the air in time to grab the bag, labeled Ieyaru's lucky bag. Ieyasu had fired for him. Lucky bag. What good fortune. These are goggles and ethanol, an antifungal spray. Judging from the goggles' design, those are meant for you, Tokoyami. On the 1B side, Kiwaro had rejoined Mushroom Girl. Hey, Komori. Speak up. I caught him. But Aoyama, good going. That's our Kiwaro. Now you must go get the other two. They still can't pin our locations down, so I'll keep up my shroomerific attack. Sure, hey, Komori. You sure they don't know where we are? 'Cause it looks like he's heading our way. Tokoyami was bearing down on them, wearing thermal goggles. Whoa, Tokoyami's zooming straight at Komori. Fukudashi was saying, coming for you too, came a voice from behind him. I thought it was weird how you Class B guys didn't have shrooms growing all over you. Must have sterilized yourselves, right? Hagakure, invisible, with your positions revealed, Tokoyami was saying, you're in my crosshairs. As Hawks would say, speed beats power. Abyssal black body Sabbath. And he knocked Komori and Kiwaro down. Komori, are you looking for something black? Called Tokoyami, enjoy my cape. And he'd caught Kiwaro and tired up Komori in Dark Shadow. Got her, 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. With these two immobilized, there's little to fear. Let's make for the cage and cough 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. Sorry, I kept those under wraps because they're not as cute. But if we're about to lose, then I guess I have no other option. Though Komori isn't much of a fighter, she is one to fear, Monoma was saying. He should have knocked her out cold. But Tokoyami didn't take this training seriously enough. Hagakure was beating up Fukudashi, but a giant fist came from nowhere and seized her too. Sorry I'm late, Kendo told her teammate. Kendo, I'm saved. Wait, was that? Don't worry, she's out cold. But she pulled a fast one on me and tied me to her cannon. It's kinda hard to get around with this. With everything she created, she had such amazing foresight. So this doesn't really feel like I beat her. Yamoma was passed out but had tied herself to Kendo and fused herself to her cannon. Tokoyami was hacking while Kiwaro sighed. You had to resort to that, Komori. Didn't have much choice. Kendo lives up to her rep, cheered Tetsu. I just hope she doesn't lose heart over this, sighed Todoroki. Poor Yamomo. Midnight was smiling. Ieyasu will make a fine leader someday. She showed that plus ultra spirit in all sorts of ways out there. Match 2 is over. Class B wins, 4-0. League of Villains hideout, mid-December. Tamura Shigaraki skittered along the ground. A giant hand swept down from above and snapped him in two, screaming weak. In midair, cried twice, as the duplicate of the leader he'd created dissolved, leaping for Makia alongside Mr. Compress and Shigaraki. You're open to attack. Weak, screamed Makia, and again the duplicates were scattered. Toga and Spinner looked on. Our future king is in trouble, said Toga. Same as always, sighed Spinner. The doctor had promised his full support, on the condition they could reign in Gigantomachia. It had been a month and a half since then, but the beast still had not come to accept Shigaraki. He could keep attacking without rest for 48 hours and 44 minutes straight, then sleep for about 3 hours before attacking again. His body grew in battle, and he could always sniff out Shigaraki's hiding place. Makia had told them of his great ears and powerful nose. Hitting him while he was asleep did not work, as he could wake up at once and attack again. For the past month and a half, Shigaraki had barely slept, while the rest had some freedom to wander off and take shifts helping with the mission. Money had been added to their fund by the doctor, but barely enough for support. He was not ready to give them full funding. Not yet. Toga had used a little to buy a new duffel coat. Toasty, she cried, making her way through the woods. I slow down when I'm too cold. Sighed Spinner. I love how cute a line cuts look on me, she admitted. You joined 'cause you love Stain, right? Asked Spinner. But there's no sign of his influence in the league now, so why are you still here? I love Stainy, said Toga. I love Izuku and Ochako too. and I want to become everyone I love. You're so free. Must be nice, sighed Spinner. Is he sleeping now? Asked Mr. 𝗵𝗃𝗧. When does that monster find the time to eat? You still alive, 𝗵𝗃𝗧? Asked Toga. Yeah, and that thing's slowed down a lot. I'm getting way closer each time, compared to the beginning. I'm definitely gonna trip that gorilla up sooner or later. The RAP. Came a sound from Jin's something. Getting a call from Jiren. The man hasn't been picking up any of my calls, cried Mr. 𝗵𝗃𝗧. Ask if this is insured, he added, pointing to his robotic arm. That old broker's been looking out for me ever since he introduced me to the league. A real swell guy, said Twice. Then, you there, man? Why don't you pick up the phone when Mr. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 calls, you jerk? I'm afraid that would be our fault, came a smooth voice, not Jiren's, over phone. I assume I'm speaking to Jin Bubegawara, the villain known as Twice. A voice changer, asked 𝗵𝗃𝗧. Who is this? Said Twice. And where's Jiren? Say, why don't you check the news? Right now, if you can. 𝗵𝗃𝗧 opened up the news on his phone. Breaking news. Following yesterday's events, another finger has been found. 3 days ago outside the residence of HTE leader of the 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 group, a registered villain organization, a severed middle finger was discovered. Then in front of Hasu City Terminal, an index finger. Yesterday, a ring finger appeared on the central highway where a prison transport vehicle was attacked several months ago. Then at Ground Zero in Camino wore a thumb, and just moments ago in central Fukuoka at the site of Endeavor's fierce battle that is still fresh in our minds, a pinky finger. The fingers all seem to belong to the same individual. In addition, a scarf, sunglasses, and other items of clothing thought to be personal effects of the victim were discovered at each scene. Police are treating this as a crime meant as a statement by some organization or other. Those are the locations where we've done our dirty deeds, murmured 𝗵𝗃𝗧. Greetings, League of Villains, said the voice from the phone. You are speaking to the Grand Commander of the Metal Liberation Army, 𝗳𝗏𝗧. Sorry there, Takoyami. Komori patted him on the back as he kept on coughing. Want a throat lozenge? Keep her pity. You can get some medicine from Recovery Girl. Meanwhile, the robots were taking Yaoyorozu to Recovery Girl as Kendo hovered over her, looking worried. We must summon the school nurse. Humans are so utterly inefficient. They wrecked the place real good, Shinsu observed to Mr. Aizawa. Total opposite of the first match. That's just how training is in the hero course. They went overboard with the destruction, though. Vlad King turned to his team. Fukudashi, Kendo, you should know to keep damage to a minimum. Since we should probably switch sectors, Aizawa-sensei murmured to Vlad King. You're thinking we should take a breather? Sure. The teams sat down again in their group forms, chatting about the last match. Class B sure is full of tough customers. Right back at ya. Those were some huge moves you pulled off, Fukudashi. Our teams were led towards the new sector at last to begin our work. Todoroki, said Takoyami, approaching him. I shamed myself out there. It's up to you now. Why me? Hawks and Endeavor ... We've apprenticed under the top 2 heroes who fought that last battle. We are honor-bound to uphold their reputation. Indeed, and so am I, for Tensei. A very serious, unhappy look came over him, as though thinking back over very uncomfortable things. Todoroki, I asked, are you okay? You looked particularly troubled for a moment. Did I? Yes, something weighing on your mind. It's nothing, but thanks. I didn't even notice, since his face barely changes, said Anjiro. The class president must always observe his peers and reach out to those in need. You're in high spirits, as usual. Actually, it's because my dear brother has been doing better recently. Oh, glad to hear it. And as I am the one aiming to inherit Ingenium's mantle, everyone also has their eyes on me. Though I was absent for the ceremony, I too took 3rd place at the sports festival. I must once again show that I have the mettle to be my brother's successor. We looked over at the sound of construction materials crashing from a distant place. Seems like they want a head-on battle, said Todoroki. Come now, Class A. Time for match 3, came the announcer. Time to move. Achoo. Todoroki sneezed as we ran towards Tetsu's location. Are you sick? I asked him. I didn't realize you could catch colds. I'm fine, I think. Almost there. Let's spread out, said Anjiro. The 1B team seemed to be arguing. The perfect time. Ice overwhelmed them all. Todoroki's attack in action. So Todoroki's on the other side of the ice, said Tetsu. Where's everyone else? RECIPROBURST. I cried, heading towards them. Just try us, yelled Tetsu. Flop, the ice was turned from solid to liquid. That ice blast is nothing, said Honuki. If you'd come at us all hell-bent with your fire, I wouldn't have been able to fight back. Thanks, Juzo. That's one soft and flexible counterattack, cried Kaibara. Ajiro, standing, suddenly slipped on a softened pipe. I took the opportunity to soften the surrounding area. Be careful with your footing. Okay, said Honuki. Ajiro's all mine, cried Kaibara, activating his gyrate quirk. OJIRO. I shouted, as the pipes and ground softened under my feet. I seem to be going nowhere fast. Your feet are only as fast as the ground is solid. Did you notice that I've softened the ground beneath the ice? Said 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. You could potentially be a pain later on, so I'd better sink you down and keep you trapped. Are you attempting to put an end to our teamwork? You villains are the embodiment of cunning. I shouted. Horns came flying over Todoroki's shoulders and swept Shoji away. Shoji, we were sure that your scout, Shoji, would hang back in safety. Like say, right behind Todoroki, said Tsunotori. Crack. Tetsu came crashing, helped by Tsunotori's horns, into Todoroki. Horn-hammer. You and your stupid ice, always so freaking cold. You're freezing my steel butt off, Todoroki, so I'm coming at you bare-handed, okay? You think you can take me on? You jerk. I yelled at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 as the hardened ice had trapped me up to my head. Sorry, said 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 on a timer, right? Maybe you should have used it at the start. Anyway, I'd better go back up Tetsu. The timer. Who told you that, Mudman? Ingenium is always ready to run. Wherever, whenever. These legs get the job done. And I've been at full throttle this whole time. New style, 𝐕𝐶IPRO turbo. And the ice began to chip away around me. Time to show them my new move. The ice began to crack away around my legs as I pushed my way through Mudman's offense. For real? He asked as I plunged on towards him. Tenya, congrats on the provisional license. You must be overworking those engines, huh? And since you're so grown up now, I'm thinking it's about time you need one. Right, Mom? Well, it feels a little soon, but maybe. An engine tune-up. Faster. If you rip out your own exhaust pipes and continue to train, new ones will regenerate. Ones that can withstand the increased burden. Grandpa decided to start this family of heroes so that we could race toward anyone and everyone in need. He decided to pass down this bit of knowledge. You'll have to endure some excruciating pain, but if you're determined to run farther and faster. I've maxed out 𝗧𝗵𝗲's horsepower and minimized fuel consumption. It lasts 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, nobody can stop me. It was easy, in turbo, to speed past Mudman, to spin around him. Are you trying to catch us off guard with your new move? However, I move a bit too fast to retain full control. With difficulty, I was able to land a solid hit on him, moving outside of his field of vision, and coming to a halt, just barely. End of the road, Mudman. The ground beneath his feet again softened into gloop, and he disappeared beneath the surface. I moved to punch the ground, but he's made the ice solid again. Is he hiding before unleashing a counterattack? No, he knows firsthand that won't work on me. Did he rush off towards Todoroki and the others? In the distance, I heard the sound of collapsing equipment. My teammates. They must be in trouble. Should I follow Kaibara? No. The rescue must take priority. I turned and headed back towards the equipment. Ajiro was fighting Kaibara, who was close to skewering him with his spiraling support gear. You're done, Kaibara cried, ready to land the final blow on me, teammate. I seized him and dragged him away. Iida, cried Ajiro. I'll put Spiral in prison, so I must leave the battlefield for now. I'll be back shortly. In the meantime, support Todoroki because Mudman is probably headed his way. I'll be back in a flash. And Ajiro in the field disappeared from my line of sight as I spoke. I could only hope he'd heard me. In the distance, I could hear him cry, "You got it. Get off of me." I didn't get to really show off yet, protested Kaibara, poking at me, attempting to skewer me with his spiraling support gear. Oh, settle down, you. Why should I allow a villain to show off? 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 must have given you the slip, right? You saw what a pain he can be, so shouldn't you go after him instead? This is no time for you to be interrupting our one-on-one fight, Ingenium. This is how my brother would proceed, so I will do the same. If I cannot take proper action during training, then how can I hope to act when it counts? His support gear would have harmed me if I hadn't been moving at the speeds of turbo. The jail, however, had at last come in my sight, and I tossed the spiraling villain in the slammer, shutting the gate in his face and turning back to the battlefield. Shoji and Ajiro were fighting Tsunotori together. What about Tetsu and Todoroki? Is it me or is it getting hot in here? I thought at first it was just turbo. Moving around that fast usually creates heat, but now that I've paused, it seems like something more than that. Is Todoroki fighting with his fire side? That's unusual for him, even since HD Sports Festival, and he still doesn't use it that often. Is he in trouble? If he's fighting Tetsu, is it possible real steel is immune to half cold, half hot? Pure cunning. No doubt our opponent's strategy has been carefully planned with our abilities in mind. Fiendish. That means Todoroki could be in trouble. I will make him the priority. I turned on my heel and headed in the direction where the increasing heat seemed to be coming from. This is more than ordinary heat. I've never felt this level from Todoroki before. He must be using a new technique. In that case, perhaps he doesn't need my help. Abruptly, however, the heat gunned down, like the feeling when the sun goes behind a cloud. Todoroki, hurry, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 turbo. There he was. 𝐭𝐚𝐲 was behind him, the ground swampy, and a pipe atop my unconscious half-cold half-hot classmate. He was preparing to trap Todoroki in the ground, but not on my watch. I kicked Mudman in the head before he could spot me. This time you won't get away from me, Mudman. I picked up my classmate. He wasn't moving. You're out cold, Todoroki. Sorry I'm late. You wait. No running away. I heard 𝗧𝗪𝗧 screaming after me. Stain, I'll kill you for what you did. Save him first, Tensei. People who find a lost child and then take him to a lost child center. I've always thought those sorts of people were the coolest. Take this to heart, villains. The rescue takes top priority. Hurry, get Todoroki to safety. Then Anjiro and Shoji push it down. Tetsu, screamed 𝗏𝗏𝗧. I heard something, tipping, crashing, falling. A shadow fell on the ground before my feet. I wasn't fast enough, and found myself crushed beneath a softened smokestack. Todoroki on the ground right before my eyes. I was lying crushed beneath a mountain of softened sludge, trying desperately to move. Ouch, my left arm and left leg. They're too heavy. I don't have enough power with just one leg. Todoroki. He was lying unconscious, just out of my reach. I'm sorry. If only I'd been one step faster in reaching you. At least Shoji and Anjiro are still in play. And they're fighting Tsunotori together. If they capture her or keep her busy until the end, we'll win with Kaibara in jail. But still, in a real fight, Todoroki would not have been saved. 3 horns flew past me and scooped Todoroki, Tetsu, and 𝗏𝗏𝗧 off the ground. Tsunotori was flying on the remaining one, pursued by Shoji alone. But Anjiro would not abandon Shoji. Does that mean he's been captured? No, if Tsunotori can get Todoroki into jail. Shoji was hot in pursuit, though, refusing to let up, as she was flying up out of his reach. Carrying Todoroki in her arms, she had flown too high for Shoji. Sorry, Tentacle. I can't bear the thought of leading my team to defeat. One for each team, and no way to capture anyone else. As 20 minutes have elapsed. Match 3 is over. The score stands at 1-1. It's a draw. No, after all that work. Just a draw. The school nursing robots had come to our aid and were attempting to dig me out of the softened mess. My hand was clenched in sheer frustration and disappointment. My body was aching all over and something was definitely wrong with my other arm. I was taken straight to the nurse's office, where Todoroki, Tetsu, and 𝗏𝗏𝗧 were already lying down. Recovery girl shook her head as she bandaged up my arm. This joint training exercise is really putting a strain on my quirk, she complained. You children need to be more careful. Apologies, ma'am. In future, I will now. Don't blame yourself too much. She handed me a Snickers bar and smiled. Focus on healing, and on supporting your classmates in the next round. I nodded. Yes, ma'am. She bustled over to Todoroki's bed and kissed him, bringing him out of his stupor. Eat a Snickers. Anjiro already had one and is headed back. Todoroki, called Tetsu as he headed out. Our teams might have tied, but I'm taking this as a loss. That heat was something else. I can't wait to rumble again. Pipe down. Todoroki looked rather melancholy. I was seated now at the foot of his bed, my arm in bandages, attempting to massage the pain in my back. Essentially, if I'd been faster, we could have won. Iida, he said, looking at me sadly. I was still too slow, and utterly helpless against 𝗏𝗏𝗧's softening tactics. I vaguely remember you saving me, though, said Todoroki. No, you were plenty fast. I was too slow. I was slow and it wound up being your problem. I've got to become a hero who's actually reassuring. Nonsense. You, unreliable. I won't hear of it. Ouch. I gasped as I attempted to raise my injured arm. I meant to run towards those in need, wherever, whenever, especially since I'm determined to inherit Ingenium's mantle. The curtain opened and 𝗏𝗏𝗧 looked us over, his mask off. You're fire, and you're 𝗧𝗪𝗏. In my mind, those are challenges I've yet to overcome. How about a rematch someday? Sure, we said together. If you boys are feeling better, then get back to Tay grounds, said Recovery Girl. This is no time for chitter-chatter. Ah, yes ma'am. We rejoined the class as the 2 teams of Match 4 were preparing to go into battle. Match 4 start. Yikes, you're seriously suggesting that? Jiro asked Bakugo. That sort of strategy. No way, man, said Sato. Did I stutter? Bakugo smirked at his gloved fingers. This is it, floated Monoma. Each class has a single win, so if you lose or tie this next one, you guys can no longer say you beat us. Chill out, man, Kaminari frowned at him. And oh, I've been waiting for match 4 in particular, yes Sayuri. Why you ask? Because Takage is in the mix. Bakugo had better be ready. On this terrain, Zero and Jiro are definitely gonna be trouble, Bondo was saying. Then there's Sato and Bakugo. Awase counted them off on his fingers, who both pack a punch. Their team is super balanced. If we lose the initiative in this fight, we're dead meat. Who cares about all that? Let me carve him up. Kamakiri snarled. That's enough out of you, Awase replied. Early bird gets the worm. Victory is simple as that, smiled 𝗃𝗏𝗧. Time for match 4. Each class has one win and a tie from the last match. But if you're thinking they're evenly matched, guess again. Because Class A's single win was mostly thanks to 𝗫𝗏. Evenly matched? I think not. Vlad King Sensei was gloating. That's just mean, Vlad Sensei. Kaminari and Kirishima protested. I hung my head in shame. That's enough, Aizawa Sensei reprimanded them. But Sensei, this is a legit protest. Are you planning to complain over every little failure once you go pro? Class B came up with better strategies. That much is evident. And Vlad is really showing me up. Did we expect any better from the troublemakers? Monoma gloated. I mean, it's no wonder that your inexperience gets you caught up in so many disasters. Hurry it up, slowpokes. Bakugo was shouting at his teammates. But I'm trying to listen as we move. Jiru complained. Whatever, just keep up. It's always follow the leader with him, grumbled Sato. Guy hasn't changed since the sports festival, sighed Siro. And to think it almost seemed like he was ready to cooperate, said Jiru. Hope this works. Stop. They're here. Bakugo shouted. Ears. I have a name, you know, shouted Jiru. They've got to be close. Find him. Jiru plugged her jacks into the ground and sat listening. What's the holdup? Bakugo demanded. Hang on, oh no. They've got us, Jiru cried. Yes, it's all over now, said 𝗃𝗏𝗧, floating mouth behind Bakugo. He turned around to throw a blast at her, which she avoided. 𝗃𝗏𝗧's quirk, allowing her to split up her body into independently moving pieces, had allowed her to sneak up on Bakugo and beat him up with her detached body parts. These hits ain't too strong, but ugh, they're too small to target. In here, Bakugo, screamed Siro, creating a tape prison to barricade out 𝗃𝗏𝗧. Like I said, it's all over now, came 𝗃𝗏𝗧's gloating remark from above. Glue squall, screamed Bondo as glue spread out over the trapped 1A students. Arch, we're trapped, cried Sato. Woo, I did it. Just like Setsuna planned, said Bondo. This way, Siro directed the others. From above, Kamakiri was planning to jump down upon the trapped students. Ha ha ha, too slow, too slow. They're using all of our moves against us, said Midoriya. At least you two can get away, Sato said, holding up his hands. Bakugo's blast came from above, throwing all the glue away, and leaving them with no cover from Kamakiri, who leapt down towards Jiru. Let's start with the biggest nuisance, Jiru, said 𝗃𝗏𝗧. In a flash, Bakugo was between Jiru and Kamakiri, kicking Jiru out of the way to safety and blasting Kamakiri in the face. League of Villains hideout, first the Yakuza, now the Liberation Army. All these retro freaks are trying to make a comeback. Is this cause of that book that came out a little while back? Are you trying to ride that wave straight to the headlines? Asked Shigaraki. How well informed you are. But no, it's the other way around. We created the wave. WL good for you. Snapped twice. Now where's Jurin? Adin Wadea want? You better not have touched a hair on that wonderful man's head. Oh, he's here. Alive of course. And we seek to liberate all metahumans. We will tear down the existing framework and rebuild this world as a place where people are free to be themselves and use their abilities as they see fit. I don't see any reason we should oppose that, said Compress. Are we gonna lend these guys the league's rep just like with the Yakuza? Asked Toga. Shigaraki said. How about you liberate our broker and then ring me again? I'm busy now. Once I'm done with my business here, I'll listen to you and your merry band of revolutionaries. That could very well come back to bite us, said Compress. Take a break and hear me out, why don't you? Because first of all, we will not liberate our hostage. From him we've come to learn how tight-knit you people are. Your broker is an impressive man, someone who takes a lot of pride in his work, someone able to sink into the shadows, always sure to evade the attention of the authorities and heroes. Too bad for you he was unprepared for an attack from those same Satos. I commend him for deleting his client lists before we got to him, and we NWE started severing fingers. The man not only refused to give up, he wouldn't even cry out in pain. A new voice added. As for that client data he deleted, we've finally recovered it. I commend his resistance, though it was futile, because you see, we liberation warriors have prepared long and hard over many generations for this. We've bided our time and spread our roots far and wide. A merry band of revolutionaries, you say? I'm no fan of such jokes. There are 116,516 of our fellow liberation warriors lying in wait ready to rise to action. I would be loath to make such a self-deprecating comment. League of Villains. This guy's gotta be bluffing, said Spinner. It seems you're in Nagata. Perhaps deep in the mountains. Twice tossed the phone away, but the voice said, too late, I'm afraid. We have a lock on you via satellite imaging. Wherever you run, we'll have eyes on the notorious League of Villains. Endeavor, Hawks, Edgeshot, Mirko, Crust, all those heroes would be upon you with just one little call to the authorities. So generous, giving us advance warning. What do you really want? 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 must be the one to lead this revolution, and your name has gotten too big. Your destruction at our hands will signal the second advent of the Liberation Army. Consider those fingers as proof of our resolve. No need to draw matters onto, right? We will fight to liberate the metas of this world, so make your way to Deku City in Hi Prefecture. That is, if you hope to see poor Jiren freed. Stand against us and be destroyed, or do nothing and be captured by heroes. The choice is yours, Tamura Shigaraki. We were all rather astonished at what we had seen. Bakugo actually protecting someone. Bakugo, indeed. You sleeping the job, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏, demanded Kamakiri. For real, asked 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. Meanwhile Bakugo was still firing strong. Blocked my blast. I guess bugs do have quick reflexes. Try this. He threw Kamakiri backwards. What's this? Do my eyes deceive me? Asked Monoma. It almost looked like he protected Gyro just now. He sure did. By kicking her, said Kaminari. Don't worry, Monoma. He's got sides to him you wouldn't expect. Your vision's just fine, said Kirishima, patting Monoma on the back. He even backed us up during the provisional license exam. You mean he's gotten character development? Monoma screamed. It's true, though. This is the first time we've seen him put it all on the line for someone else, said Kirishima. Thanks, said Jiro. Shove it. They escaped, so go find them. Whether it's class training or whatever, I made a pledge one I will achieve absolute victory every time. We're taking this for -0, no casualties. The strong don't settle for anything less. The others all began to smile. Moments ago, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 had explained, we don't stand a chance in a straightforward brawl. So if we fail to capture them, make a quick retreat. We'll ambush them over and over, slowly building up an advantage. More likely than not, we'll basically be up against a one-man team since Bakugo will be taking the lead and barking out orders. If we can keep the pressure on Bakugo, he's bound to stumble. That's when their whole team will fall apart and start screwing up. Crap, they're all falling back, said Jiro. Those extra noises from her make it tough, to be sure, but there are fewer pieces this time. If I focus I can tell what's what. Fewer pieces, said Siro. They're trying to regroup. Those jerks. Do you all think we're just gonna lie down and take it? Let's go. He blasted forward and was met by 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗏. He silently snuck up on them. They're using the opposite strategy now, Midoriya commented. With a single fuse, 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗏 sealed Bakugo to the nearest pillars. Job complete. They've totally seen through our plans, snapped Siro, trying to catch 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗏 with tape, which he evaded. Don't mess with me, Bakugo snapped, as Sato jumped to his aid, smashing through the pillars. Get going. Nobody welds me and gets away with it, Bakugo shouted, blasting after 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗏. 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗏 threw up shields in a hurry, but he's all yours, Bakugo called, blasting upwards. Jiro and Siro appeared behind him. Got this, smiled Jiro. Heartbeats around, and her earphone plugs appeared above and below 𝗲𝗏𝗧𝗏, surrounding him with surround sound and stunning him for Siro to bind. Bakugo was closing in on Bondo. I ain't in top form in the winter, but now I'm finally starting to heat up. He blasted around Bondo in an arc and threw a giant blast at his back. Sato popped up from behind him and seized his head. Gotcha. What quick teamwork from Class A. They've captured 2 of my dear students in the blink of an eye. Really, that little tyrant never had a cooperative bone in his body. But you're telling me he's mellowed out this much, snapped Monoma. Jiro and the boys have faith in him too. That trust gets the job done, smiled Uraraka. All that drumming paid off, smiled Kirishima to Kaminari. Once a band, always a band. Bakugo, Jiro shouted, pointing her earphone jack for him to follow. We know a thing or two about 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏, lizard tail splitter, said Siro. She can split up into 50 pieces and move them all around, but the parts drop dead after a certain amount of time. She can regenerate those lost parts, and this next bit's just a guess, but there's gotta be a limit to how much and how soon she can regenerate, right? Kinda like Yaoyorozu. If she's tried out, she's bound to lose focus. Bakugo had caught up with Kamakiri, seized his cowl, and was throwing him, one hand grasping a horn, into the air. She split up as much as possible to make those noises to throw Jiro off, but repeating that strategy won't work well with her limitations, Siro continued, as Bakugo blasted Kamakiri into a building with an 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. She'll bring a few pieces back to her main body to reset their time limit. The pieces of Bakugo's bombs he'd thrown the others. Take a few, just in case they ain't too strong. But they could come in handy. Close one, began 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. She turned and next to her was Bakugo, preparing a stun grenade. Why'd you go and change so much? She demanded. I didn't change. My goal has always been the same. To surpass All Might and be the #1 hero. As the light cleared, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 lay on the ground, defeated. Deku City, talk about the burbs, I sighed, looking around at our new location. Not too small, not too big. Nice atmosphere around here. It ticks me off, said Twice. 1 hour and 40 minutes until our oversized friend awakens, said Compress. Making them clash with Makia will require that we fight as well. This will be no walk in the park. Yes, why'd you have to drag me into this? Grumbled 𝗬𝗏𝗊. Hey, Jiren brought you into other fold too, snapped Twice, throwing a measuring tape at him which 𝗬𝗏𝗊 ducked. Like I care. You bastard. Someone's coming, called Toga as we prepared for action. No another step. I was ordered to guide you down into town, said a hero with a square jaw. A hero? I don't recognize this one. I noted. Stain, would you have deemed this one a true hero? If you want a face-to-face with the Liberation Army's commander, then you'd best follow me, okay? He guided them through the deserted streets of Deka. It was silent. Not a soul around, said 𝗵𝗃𝗄. Shigaraki looked up and noticed a figure atop a house. This whole city, huh? This place isn't usually my turf, said the hero, putting his thumb to his forehead and sticking up his pointer finger. But today's a big exception. Just as the man says, said a new voice. Here in Deka City, 90% of the population heroes included are liberation warriors lying in wait. This is a liberated district. He had slicked back hair, sunglasses, a mustache line, and wore a fine suit. Thank you for making the trip, and welcome. This is a day of celebration and you are the guests of honor. Shall we start the festivities? This is the Meta-Human Liberation Army's revival celebration. And strange figures jumped out from hiding all around them, civilians with sharp fingers and long teeth. That's 𝗵𝗲𝗄, leader of the Hearts and Mind Party, cried 𝗵𝗃𝗄. Is he some big shot? I asked him. Yes, someone who could easily have 110,000 followers. So what? We're here, so where's Jiren? Demanded twice. Your broker, waiting just over there with our Grand Commander, said 𝗵𝗲𝗄, gesturing to a distant building. But we were promised we'd get him back. What an obvious lie. Tamura Shigaraki, several shouted, headed towards our leader. They dissolved into dust with a touch. Off to the tower, then. Oh, this is what we're good at, smiled Toga, and the ground beneath her feet exploded. T-Girl wanted in connection with a string of bloodletting murders. If it isn't Himiko Toga herself. How did this high schooler turn to madness? In this shocking, exclusive new interview, hear her story in her own words. How's that for a headline? Smirked a long-haired, fur-clad reporter as she raised her hands for a picture. Ah, this sucks, grumbled Toga. Done in less than 5 minutes. Class A's unexpected teamwork has led them to a 4-0 victory. Sensei gave them a thumbs up. You all kept overall damage to a minimum and were very efficient from start to finish. With his mobility and power, Bakugo was the foundation that you three worked off of, and everyone did their jobs well. You guys had a solid strategy, at least based on your opponent's past fights and strengths. But the plan was too rigid, unlike Honiki's more flexible approach, said Vlad King Sensei. Kakin, said Kaminari. Looks like you can really get it done when you make the effort. And you were a total heroine out there, Gyro. Just hero is fine. You're like a street rat who starts adopting kittens, dude, said Zero. Bakugo ignored them all. His eyes were on All Might. That gave me chills, said Sensei. Oh yeah, better see a doctor, Bakugo muttered. Kakin, said Midoriya, popping up almost from nowhere. Out of the way, nerd. I'm not actually in your way. I'm making progress. Yeah, you were great out there. At a speed you can't keep up with. Nah, I'll surpass you. Shut it. Is that all you got to say? 'Cause you'll never beat me, you damn nerd. Just watch me. Argumentative as always, those two. The team was headed off to fight, Midoriya being the scout from up above. We'll start with Shinso, okay, said 𝗵𝗲𝗄. As long as he's out there, I'm on edge. I don't want to get brainwashed. Let's not focus too hard on him, though, said Uraraka. The rest of them are the type to stay hidden and launch attacks from who knows where. She floated up her helmet. I float stuff. I melt stuff, said Ishido. I stick stuff, said 𝗵𝗲𝗄. The wind went out of all their sails. We're fighting an uphill battle. Can't attack, can't do nothin'. We'd better go with my pop-off vineyard strat. Nobody's gonna walk right into that. Nah, first we find him. Then we trap him, and I'll be the bait, said Midoriya, returning to them. How's it going? Said Ishido. You said your quirk has been acting weird. Yeah, but there's nothing strange, It's back to normal. Still, based on how the 4th match went, they're probably gonna be extra wary of me. I'd better be ready to go all out. You okay? We're counting on you here. Don't worry, we can win this. Uraraka held up her hands. Ishido cheered. Now start, match 5. The formation of Midoriya's team bears a strong resemblance to Bakugo's team in match 4, I observed. They have a similar makeup too, added Zero. But they don't have a gyro type on their side. They gotta be even more careful than we were, unless they wanna get wrecked. That's true, said Gyro. If their strategy involves luring them out, then Midoriya will have to work even harder than Bakugo. Midoriya gave Uraraka a small gesture with his hand. She nodded and he went off to scout, jumping around the structure. The others proceeded to set up a trap for Class 1B. 𝐒𝐭𝐻, came a cry from Uraraka. No, not from her. That shout must have been Shinso. They're close, said 𝗵𝗲𝗄 as Uraraka floated him up to set his trap. Kinda funny to picture that shriek coming from such a calm guy, said Ishido. Hey, we gotta look at each other's faces when talking, said Uraraka. We got bite, 𝗵𝗲𝗄 cried as he adjusted his trap. As objects came flying towards them, Ishido threw up her protective barrier. Acid Veil, it's Yangi's poltergeist, cried 𝗵𝗲 as objects came flying their way. As she even aiming, 2 small objects came flying towards 𝗧𝗏𝗧, who threw up her acid veil, not enough as they suddenly grew huge. A barrel and a screw. Release, said 𝗂𝐲, placing her hands together. It's 𝗂𝐲's size. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 jumped into action and slapped the materials, floating them away. Twin impact, fire. The objects exploded. 𝐒𝐻𝗧𝗍, cried 𝗧𝗏𝗧. We've got a decent idea of what direction they're in now. Let's launch a second attack while they're still in the dark, said 𝗧𝗪 to his 2 teammates. That was crazy. They've probably got our location now. What about Deku? Asked 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Midoriya, meanwhile, had run into 𝗵𝗲 at the other corner of the structure. Huh, did you spot me? Came 𝗵𝗲's smug voice. After observing Bakugo's performance, we'd be fools to take you lightly. It's only natural to be on guard against someone as strong and agile as you. The clever among us realize that much. On the other hand, someone truly clever might also think that it was the other 3 who amplified Bakugo's strength ... that crushing them should have taken priority. You're such a showman. You've gone out of your way to reveal yourself? Yes. Meanwhile, I expect my allies have already located yours. It'll be 3 against 4. How will your team fare? With Shinso in the mix, they can't exactly communicate freely. I suppose you'd better race back to check on your friends. But wait, what if that scream just now was Shinso mimicking a voice? What if your 3 friends are still hidden but you end up leading us right to them? 𝗂𝗧. I'm afraid there's no easy answer. Midoriya headed towards him, ready for the capture. Don't you have any regard for your friend's potential plight? That's cold. I had a little chat with Shinso. The gifted will break this world. Tell me, your pal, Bakugo ... how is it that he can still smile without a care when he's the one who brought about the downfall of the symbol of peace? Midoriya's face went black with rage. Something came from his glove. Not a blast of energy. Black liquid tendrils. Something strange, something new, something wrong. Midoriya was actually writhing around, clutching his glove as if in pain. Midoriya, what's going on? He's grown even more. That jerk, scoffed 𝗵𝗲. But Midoriya screamed at him, run. The black tendrils, or whatever they were blasting out of Midoriya's arm like some kind of demented spider or something. 𝗵𝗲 just barely ducking out of the way. Shinso, he shouted. Another new move from Midoriya, asked Sato. Shinso was the nearest to Midoriya, who was becoming visible through a cloud of dust. Shinso, he rasped out as the dust cleared away and his arm flapped around, unnaturally, as if the strange tendrils were controlling it. Just run. The power can't control it. It's exploding out of me. The thing was whipping up through the surrounding area as Midoriya's teammates and rivals gasped. It was blasting far enough away to hit even them, pulling Midoriya along by the arm. Deku, gasped 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Stop it, stop it. He was screaming. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 jumped from nowhere and wrapped her arms around him, screaming at him. Deku, you gotta calm down. I can't, stop it. Shinso, she shouted. Brainwash him. You need to stop Deku. Shinso looked a little uncertain, but then shouted Midoriya, pulling off his voice changer and smiling. Let's fight. Okay, Midoriya responded, and froze. Brainwashed. The quirk receded. Deku, hey, Deku, said 𝗬𝗏𝗏, slapping him awake. Are you okay? Hope I didn't slap you too hard. What a relief. Good thinking, 𝗬𝗏𝗏. 𝗬𝗏𝗏, get back. It's too dangerous. Shinso's brainwashing helped calm you down. You're fine now, right? 𝗬𝗏𝗏, you're hurt. What did I do? From behind him, 𝗵𝗲 leaped into action. I'm afraid this match isn't over yet. And he swiped at Midoriya. 𝗵𝗲, I've got this, said 𝗬𝗏𝗏, using her martial arts moves to run at 𝗵𝗲 until more resized weapons came flying at our classmates. Are you two okay? What was all that? Said Inagi. Nice poltergeisting there, said 𝗵𝗲. That wild black energy ruined all our plans, said Tsuburaba as he and Kodai ran up, pursued by Ashido and 𝗵𝗲. Eat this, cried Astio. Then to our classmates, Midoriya, 𝗬𝗏𝗏, everything okay? Everyone's here, said 𝗬𝗏𝗏. It's an all-out brawl. Shinso had attempted to capture 𝗬𝗏𝗏 with his scarf, and Midoriya had seized the end to protect her. Shinso pulled back on the scarf, dragging Midoriya forward with him. He let go and fell onto the ground. Deku wasn't strong enough to resist. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 cried out, leaning over the edge of the building to look at him. I might still be a danger to you guys, so there's no way I can use my quirk now. Then let's retreat for now. We'll figure something out. Retreat. That means losing. Shinso's up there waiting. This is my chance for victory. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 jumped down to join him. But Deku, you can't really mean that you're gonna fight quirkiness. Nope, but I'm gonna need your help, 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Meanwhile, Ashido was fighting almost single-handedly against the others, unleashing a new attack on Kodai and Yang. Acid shot, she called out, unleashing what looked like acid bullets as she leaped through the sky. This might sting a little. Big, said Kodai, changing the size of a nearby object to protect herself. I can't afford to take critical hits on a brawl like this, said Shota, throwing something up towards her and shouting twin impact. Fire. An exploding pinwheel was headed towards 𝐻𝐸𝐵, but 𝗵𝗲 got in the way with a shield. 𝗵𝗲, she cried. Just as planned. Hear that 𝗵𝗲𝗔𝗂𝘁𝗍. Just as freaking planned. Since I knew I couldn't actually stand up to your twin impact. Really, even now, said 𝐻𝐸𝐵 as he bumped into her, and she threw him away, bouncing him through the entire setup. That's enough, here we go. He was bouncing back and forth through the various balls he'd set up throughout the buildings. I wish we could regroup, said 𝗳𝗱, but they're coming at us so quick. There's no time to come up with a plan. Yeah, said 𝗂𝐲. Our guys have the edge despite the numbers disadvantage, said 𝗵𝗲. The others gotta be careful about getting into 𝐻𝐸𝐵's range, said Kirishima. And pumping a fist into the air he announced, she's so awesome. The girls aren't exactly close combat experts. So 𝗳𝗱's gotta guard him by himself, said 𝗬𝗵𝗲. Having a bigger team is backfiring. They gotta get out of there, said 𝗵𝗲. Didn't the teachers run off to shut all this down? Asked Jiryu. And what are Midoriya and 𝗬𝗏 up to? Our classmates had been engaged in battle by 𝗵𝗲, who was tossing objects at them and appeared to be taking a swipe at the two of them. Your power is mine, he shouted, and I remembered that earlier he had slapped Midoriya. Could he have really swiped his quirk? But Midoriya's quirk, wait, 𝗵𝗲. That's too risky to 𝗬𝗏 started. Too late, 𝗵𝗲 shouted, but his attack didn't seem to have affected them. 𝗬𝗏 slammed him down and shouted to Midoriya. That wasn't your power, Deku. It's a bluff. Now go. Sheesh, I drew a blank, muttered 𝗵𝗲, now pinned to the ground by 𝗬𝗏. 𝗵𝗲, shouted Shinsu, but at that moment Midoriya had floated up to him. Release, said 𝗬𝗏 as Midoriya trapped Shinsu's scarf. Last time we tangled like this was at the sports festival, said Shinsu. It won't be like last time. I'm not the same as before, Midoriya. He had wrapped the scarf around barrels above him and pulled them downwards on top of Midoriya, just like Sensei would, and Midoriya's strange black quirk tendrils and emerged from him again. But this time, not as dangerous weapons, but as a tool he used to seize the barrels and save himself. Sheesh, said Shinsu. What's going on with you? Was all that rampaging just a bluff? Are you playing with my emotions or something? He flinched and the black whip sunk back in. Shinsu had taken advantage of the time to get away. 𝗬𝗏, meanwhile, was dragging 𝗵𝗲 along with a rope and slapping his attempt to attack her by floating a pipe at her away. It's been about 5 minutes since our match started, right? And I know quirks that you copy only last that long, said 𝗬𝗏. I simply pretended my limit was 5 minutes, but I've improved. It's 10 now. If I were to unleash a brutal sneak attack now, could you defeat me all on your own? She said nothing. Well done, 𝗬𝗏. Wary of Shinsu's quirk. Shrewd, aren't you? By the by, do you know how many quirks I can cop at once? She held up 3 fingers. You think 3? Ha ha ha. Does 3 pocket watches mean 3 quirks? Ha ha ha. I merely pretended it was 3, but I've increased my limit to 4. What do you say to that? Plus I can achieve all manner of clever things with copied quirks. While it's true that I can't activate more than 1 at a time, some have effects that last and linger, especially ones that don't necessarily affect a person's body directly. She had gotten him to jail by this point. Take Kodai's size, for instance. The nut I enlarged with retain its size even if I use other quirks. Ha ha ha. Catch my drift. What if I said fire? Sound familiar? Be careful of the supporting role's dying breath. She'd shut him up and was running to rejoin the group. Shinsu's leading him to the larger group. Is he trying to get Midoriya into the brawl? Asked Rin. And in a madcap scramble like that, Shinsu's quirk can effectively lock down battle and its players. Midoriya had hunted down Shinsu, but he suddenly recoiled from an explosion near his face. Yes, twin impact, said 𝗵𝗲. Anything struck once will receive a second, stronger blow. I apologize, Shinso, for falling so early. I only hope I gave you your opening. 𝗳𝗱 had punched 𝗵𝗲 while 𝗍𝗷 was busy with the others. You're not so hard to nab once I caught onto your moves. You should know they call me the mobile Adonis. Good. With 1 down, the rest should fall, said Yang, unleashing a barrage of objects on 𝗍𝗷. 𝗍𝗷's in trouble, Kirishima cried out, watching her dodge and barely escape. And Shinsu managed to pull away. Our team might really turn this around, said Kamakiri. Midoriya was headed towards Shinsu. He had seized the scarf, and as Yanagi closed in, 𝗬𝗏's hand came down on her neck. Ryoiko, cried Kodai. 𝗬𝗏 in a flash had pinned her, and 𝗍𝗷 had punched 𝗳𝗱 in the face, causing him to drop 𝗵𝗲. Midoriya had pinned Shinsu to the ground, and with that, it was over. Our side had won. Miss Midnight was giving the summary. And that brings these 5 matches to a close. You showed us some fantastic battles, proving how well you knew your enemies and yourselves. Class A took the first match, while Class B took the second. The third match was a draw, and Class A won the 4th and D5th matches. Jiru, Hagakure and Aoyama were cheering her commentary, fair and unbiased. So the grand victory in battle training goes to Class A, and our class took up a cheer. We were all deceived, said Shizaki. I wasn't even blazing with much competitive spirit, but still. I know, it still stings, humphed Komori. The teams from round 5 had gathered for their review. Said Sensei. First off, Midoriya, want to tell us what happened? Those fearsome black tendrils manifested from him, said Tokoyami. He didn't seem in control, but does that attack have a name? It's just some new move. It couldn't be. It's too different from his usual super strength. So what caused it then? I still don't really know, said Midoriya, looking uncertain. The power welled up and I couldn't control it. It's like something I've believed in up to now all of a sudden turned on me. It was truly terrifying. But when Uraraka and Shinsu tried to stop me, that helped me realize it wasn't all bad. If Shinsu hadn't used his brainwashing to knock me unconscious, I honestly don't know what would have happened. You asked if I was bluffing, Shinsu. I wasn't. I had no clue what was going on. So both of you, thanks. That's true, said Miss Midnight, facing down Midoriya's little rampage. Both Shinsu and Uraraka demonstrated some quick thinking and fast responses. And the way Uraraka, in particular, put herself on the line to help her friend was incredible. I loved it. You just jumped in without thinking, Uraraka, quick as a whip. And then you wrapped your arms around him tight, teased Ashido. Uraraka went red. It's true that I acted before thinking. In the future I should try to keep a cool head. But if the alternative is doing nothing and regretting it, then I'd be happier jumping in. You've matured, Uraraka, said Sensei. I wasn't just doing it for Midoriya's sake, said Shinsu. Uraraka gave me that order and I acted. Plus I saw the other 3 getting wrecked by the black energy and realized that our team would probably lose unless we put a stop to it. I did what I did because I wanted to fight Midoriya and beat him. It only worked out that way by chance. But in the moment I was focused on myself and what I wanted. Sensei stomped forward and strangled him with his scarf. That's corporal punishment, alert the PTA, shouted Kaminari, unusually angry for some reason. Nobody was asking for any more than that from you, said Sensei, loosening the scarf. Everyone here has already spent months training to become heroes who save people. Embody that ideal right after being thrown into the deep end is not possible. That would take talent on par with All Might. Acting for the sake of others. Saving people actually takes a lot more than just that. You'll never protect anyone until you find whatever strength you need for yourself. If you think about it that way, your actions earned you more than just a passing grade. Shinsu, at the end there you tried luring me into the big brawl, where you could have really shined, right? Said Midoriya. And remember when you tried tripping me up with those falling pipes? That was so fast. The way you whipped out the binding cloth while on the move really reminded me of Aizawa-sensei. In the first match too I was thinking how the team came together to make great use of your abilities. But that's not all it was. Your judgment, analysis, and quick moves are just as impressive as anyone in the hero course. You blew me away. If we're talking about using your strength for others, then I'm the one who's got a long way to go on that front. Indeed, Midoriya, we all do. Indeed, said Sensei. We've still got some deliberating to do, but probably, no, more than likely Shisno will be joining the hero course as of his 2nd year at UA. He's got what it takes to be everyone's equal here. WHOOAA. Which class, or B? All in good time. We're not done with our reviews yet. Heh, said Monoma. This may have been a dark day for Class B, yes. But we've only lost the battle, not the war. Now that I know Midoriya's quirk gives me a blank, I will formulate a counter-strategy. Meaning if we were to go another 5 rounds, who knows how it'd turn out. Classes are over for today, said Vlad King. And with that our first joint training wrapped up. UA High, it had certainly been a long, exhausting day. We were more than ready for a rest as we packed up, changed, and prepared to head back towards Heights Alliance. Everyone was chatting excitedly about the day's events. Everyone, that was, except for Bakugo and Midoriya, who had disappeared after the end of class. I wonder what's up with them. Are they doing something together? Midoriya and Bakugo. That doesn't seem likely, though they do seem to be getting along much better these days. Iida, I started a little. Kendo, with the rest of Class 1B behind her, excepting Monoma, was smiling at me. I stopped and the rest of Class 1A came to a halt behind me. Kendo, you fought valiantly today. I bowed to her, my fellow class representative. Thanks, she said, scratching her head a little. We were wondering, would you mind if we came and hung out with you guys? Of course not. I cried out, perhaps a little too eagerly. I raised my right hand. We would be honored to have you join us. Great, said Kendo. See you there. I glanced at the others. I should perhaps have asked their permission first. But no, all of them were smiling, looking quite pleased. Class 1B joined us in our walk back from the campus to the dorms, falling into line with us. Behind me Kendo had joined Yaoyorozu and Jiru. Tetsu and Kirishima were deep in conversation already, and many others had joined forces to talk over the day's events. Homenuki gave me a simple nod. We had already said our piece. The others of the group we had fought had paired off with others of my classmates. I didn't exactly mind. I was in fact tired enough from the day's events. My legs, indeed, were rather sore. My backpack was also exceptionally packed with textbooks I'd taken from the library in the morning. We arrived and I immediately perked up. That smell, could it be? Our dinner tonight was beef stew. Yes, indeed it was. Steaming pots on the stove, lunch rushes work, and extras brought over for Class 1B already. I'll prepare tea for us all. 𝐲𝗬𝗧𝗏 was calling, accompanied by 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 saying, and I think I've got some extra cake upstairs. Just hold on a moment. I sat down to dinner, watching as everyone paired off, joined up, went deep into conversation. Where on earth are Midoriya and Bakugo? You'd think they'd at least be on time for dinner. Todoroki was sitting with Ojiro and Koda, though he didn't seem to be talking much. He looked rather troubled. Something was bothering him. He had seemed rather upset all day, even before our tie match. Even though 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 counted it as a draw, I feel I still have a long way to go. Still, I added, remembering to avoid dwelling too much, it came far more easily than it would have done before. It feels like a long time ago, but there was certainly a time when even going to 𝗵𝗃 burst would have felt exhausting. Now I can go to 𝗵𝗃 turbo, and it feels easier to navigate than it used to just using the momentary burst. I suppose it was all that training. It's paying off now. The door opened and Bakugo stomped in. He was wearing his gym clothes and looked as surly as usual. Bakugo, I salted him, having cleared my plate and ready to make the rounds. Where have you been? None of your damn business. He snapped back. For him that was a rather polite greeting. Bakugo, as your class representative, it is my responsibility to. He had already headed to the dinner table. I sighed and gave it up. Bakugo probably wouldn't tell me. And as long as he was back safe and sound, that was what mattered. But if he wasn't with Midoriya, then where is Midoriya? I considered calling him, or informing a teacher. With Midoriya, you never know. To keep my mind off of him, I examined everyone else. Yaoyorozu, Kendo and Jiro were sharing tea. Kirishima and 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗏 were gripping hands as if striking a deal. Hiroraka had her head draped over a sofa, chewing dinner next to Asui and Hagakure. The door opened and to my relief Midoriya walked in, also in gym clothes and looking a bit disheveled. They are both in gym clothes. Were they together after all? I hurried over to him. Dinner tonight is beef stew. Ooh, nice. And it looks like Class B is here too. Indeed, they've come to socialize and discuss today's training. He smiled and turned away. Headed towards the kitchen, I sped forward, but couldn't help overhearing Todoroki. I've been looking for you, Midoriya. I didn't realize you had two quirks too. Huh, I was just a little shocked that the guy who screamed at me not to hold back was hiding this all along. It's not like that. It's probably just derived from the original. It's still just a single quirk. I was shocked too. This has never happened until today. Oh, right. Well, that sounds rough. Sorry for doubting you, but it was pretty impressive. You too, Todoroki. You're flames. You're really getting the hang of it. No, I still have a long way to go. Just like you, I guess. Which is why I need to keep aiming higher. Aiming higher, I thought, as I settled down to watch over our two classes. Indeed, I can do so much more now, it seems absurd to keep waiting. With these new skills, I gave Tensei and Mother a call that evening. Tenya, how are you? Great to hear from you. Thank you. I hope you are both doing well. Sure, but how are you? How's UA? Fine. We had our first joint training with Class 1B today. Yeah, it was a tournament. 5 teams from our class versus 5 teams from theirs. And, did you win? Our class won. I paused. My team tied. Oh, well, that's still pretty great, said Mother. If I wish to become a hero, I need to keep aiming for the top, I said sadly. In a real-world situation, a draw would be unacceptable. Not necessarily, Tensei chimed in. Sometimes a draw is the best you can hope for. It's better than a loss. Coming from a pro hero, of course, that was reassuring. Thank you, Tensei. I should keep that in mind. The next morning, during my first break from school, I dialed a number I hadn't touched in a long time. Tenya, long time no hear. How are you? Well, thank you, Mr. Manuel. I wanted to ask something. Yeah, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 City Spinner and Shigaraki, 𝗬𝗏𝗏 and Mr. Compress had been separated from Toga's fight with Chidos, fighting back on their own sides against the seemingly never-ending onslaught of Metal Liberation Army warriors. They looked like blips surrounded by human waves. How much longer until wakey time? Called Spinner. 1 hour, 20 minutes, said Mr. Compress. For real, even though we knock 'em down, they just keep on coming. You haven't taken a single one out yet, snapped 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Where'd Toga run off to? Asked twice. A car came driving through. A car with a dais on top labeled Hearts and Minds Party. Atop it stood the Metal Liberation Army member with the dark glasses and long twine of hair. Attention, I have tragic news to report. An election campaign van, wondered Mr. Compress. Miss Curious has fallen in battle. She has given her life to the liberation cause. How awful, shrieked the audience members, in a wild display of feeling. Any word from the Grand Commander about this? Do not let her sacrifice be in vain, he said. I see, said 𝗵𝗃𝗀 is playing the role of the preacher gathering his flock. This isn't an army. It's more like a religious sect. A giant wall of warriors, all at once, were headed towards 𝗧𝗫𝗍𝗄. He seemed almost dwarfed by their size. 𝗧𝗫𝗍𝗄's hand had seized the face of the first, which began decaying from his touch, and it spread to the person next to him, and the next, and the next, and the next, until the wall was a pile of ash. Am I seeing things? Thought Spinner. Just now. His decay effect spread to people he wasn't even touching. 𝗧𝗫𝗍𝗄. It was early December, one Sunday morning. The winter so far had been mild and warm. We had all arrived downstairs in the common area of Heights Alliance, exchanging our good mornings when a shout came out it's snowing. About half the class threw on their winter gear to run outside and greet the new weather. Already the snow had fallen several feet deep outside, and Kirishima was shouting Geronimo as he jumped into a snowdrift, Ashido jumping up and down for joy, Jiru testing out her footing, and Midoriya attempting to pack some of it. I supervised, hoping to spot any foul play, but there was fortunately no misbehavior, and soon enough it was too cold to remain outdoors. Everyone trooped back inside to rejoin those who had been less brave. Shut the door, cried Uraraka as we returned, and Jiru held it open even after we had all returned. Uraraka, Asui, and Hagakure were all together around the sofa, and Uraraka was wearing only her pajamas. At first I thought that was the reason for her demand, but she added, Tsuyu's freezing over here. I noticed then that Asui was curled up on the cushion as if going into hibernation. Oops, sorry Tsuyu, said Jiru, closing the door behind her. Mind over matter. And you can always dry yourself off with a towel, shouted Kirishima, pulling off his soaking shirt as he headed upstairs. Watch your step, I called after him. Towels get wet and cold too, added Yaoyorozu. Let's check out what they're saying about this snowfall. I love watching the winter forecast, said Kaminari. Anyone know when those two are getting back? I want to borrow the next volume of this manga from Todoroki, said Shiro. Around 6, I heard, said Midoriya from behind me. That's when their licensing course finally ends. I added, if they pass their test today, everyone in class will have provisional licenses at last. I glanced out the window as the rest of the class was assembling around the television. They must be in the middle of their test now. Hope they're doing all right. No doubt. Bakugo's been in top form lately, but he's still a jerk, shouted Kirishima. I could make cake. Anyone interested? Asked Sato. Whoa, getting my license was the only time I ever beat those two at anything, so it's kinda sad, sighed Kaminari. Don't be so petty, Kaminari, snapped Jiru. You have several standout qualities of your own, Shoji reassured him. Don't be a petty Nari, added Shiro. Give me a break. And thanks, Shoji. The weatherwoman was wrapping up the report as we settled in around the television. Will continue until tonight in the Chubbs region. Please be careful out there for the rest of the day. Now, let's take a look back at this week's top stories. Detnerat, a big player in the lifestyle industry, has formally entered the hero support sector. It shifted to some kind of commercial. A classy lady who happens to have 4 arms. A gentleman with a handsome coat of fur. A squishy boy with skin like gelatin. Individuals like these fine people used to belong to the minority. These 3 on screen was announced by a tall, lean man with a nose like a bird. But the appearance of the extraordinary continued to accelerate, bringing us into their era. While mass production and consumer culture has been expanding ever since the Industrial Revolution, this phenomenon suddenly pumped the brakes. By the time everyone realized, it was too late. Those with newer types of bodies spent their days just trying to find products to fit their daily needs. He threw his hands up in the air, his arms crossed over his head, and cried out. Many found themselves struggling in this new era for that reason alone. We've made a point of never forgetting that history, while creating products to suit each and every valued customer. We offer customized designs, guaranteed on your doorstep in 3 days or less. It's the technology and the proprietary system behind this personal touch that have made us #1 in the industry. And now the world of heroes too can expect big things from Detnerat. Deka City, the flame villain 𝗬𝗵𝗃𝗀 cried, mine's bigger and you're outmatched, 𝐿.